Alrighty, I think it's time to start this show, get it on the road. Can everyone hear me clearly? I did a little previous test to make sure that I was getting relatively good audio. I made a mistake the other day when I was creating the talking portion of the test that I just did with my Bebop 1, and I had the camera's audio pickup on instead of the microphone. Terrible. So I want to make sure. All right, so now I know that I got my microphone because I can see the levels jumping up and down on the correct line. So anyway, Let's say howdy really quick here to everyone who has chosen to join us tonight and hang out with us while we discuss a bunch of topics that I'm going to actually also create individual videos on, but I think we'll just go ahead and touch on some of these while we are here. We have nothing better to do, right? I mean, we're going to talk about all of these things. I didn't get a chance to talk to Mike from Precision Colors this week, so there's nothing really new coming out of that company. And so far, so good. We have the new cyan ink. I don't know whether he's going to make a big announcement or just automatically incorporate it. I think I told him just to do that, and just people will just basically enjoy the new, slightly better quality in that area of the spectrum. When you make your prints, anything with a deep blue, anything with a deep purple will be benefiting from that new ink, that new color anyway. Somebody was bringing up a good point, which is, we were talking about in my last video about printers sitting around. And we'll touch on that because I'm gonna talk about that later. But I mentioned micro encapsulated pigment dyes and how Epson definitely does that. And that makes each one of those little particles of pigment, which is extremely accurately ground little pigment particles, it encapsulates them into a little bubble of resin. And that not only prevents much of the clogging that would normally take place, simply because remember, these little particles, they're not smooth, they're not little spheres, they're not BBs. There are rough little rocks. It's like grinding gravel down. You're never going to have a very smooth surface particle of that gravel, regardless how finely you grind it. And eventually it's just going to start to clump together and create massive clogs. Now, if you take one of those little particles and encapsulate it into a little bead of resin, if you will, all microscopic, it won't really stick to itself by friction alone, like a rough surface little particle would. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to touch into that. I said that only Epson and Cone Color has the ability to produce microencapsulated or resin microencapsulated pigment inks, but apparently, I should have said apparently, not appearing, apparently there is a company in Australia that is now offering such a feature on their pigment inks. And I believe that Canon may be doing the same thing. I'm not entirely sure what their process for their creation of their Lucia inks is all about. I don't know whether they microencapsulate it or whether they even need to. So anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We now have 15 people. No, I'm sorry, it just jumped to 19. And so that's good. We're just starting out already. 21 right now. Awesome. So let's go ahead and say howdy. By the way, guys and gals, I see 21, but I don't see 21 names on my chat. Please jump in, say howdy, tell us your name, tell us if this is your first time or are you returning, and just tell us where you're watching or hearing this live cast from. And that way we know approximately what parts of the world we are reaching out to. So that's really good for me to know so that I can adjust my times if I need to, especially coming up pretty soon. We'll be going back 1 hour, okay? Daylight savings will kick in about a month, I believe. I'm not entirely sure when, but it's coming. So that means that I will be doing this at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, which may not coincide very well with other folks in other parts of the world, especially the European folks that are watching me, and even folks in Australia. I just want to be able to accommodate them the best that we can. I know it's impossible, but we try our best. All right, so the first guy that came on was Max 2000 from the Valley Whales in HI, whatever that is. I think that is that Hawaii? Wow, I don't know. HI or HL? I'm horrible at this. I'm sorry. Laureen Marmer is here from Raleigh, North Carolina. And Cliff Fit from Denmark. howdy to everybody. Anthony Petit, Texas. Robert Lively, Texas. Charles Verbruggen, Antwerp, Belgium. My previous home, by the way. In Stod 37. I think you might be a new arrival here from Ohio. Nice to have you. Anthony gives us a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Hit that like button so that we can get this stream up and maybe even suggest it to folks that may be looking for some printing information out there. Eli is here. Nice to see you, Eli. Andrew Montevani II from the Bronx, New York. Will Carson, Southern California. And he's having a great fall day. We had a fantastic fall day today as well. I think it maxed out at 64 degrees. I couldn't believe it. And the sun was nice and warm, so you didn't feel that chill. I was out in a t-shirt just this afternoon. We went to visit my daughter, my second daughter. We get to see our first daughter all the time, but not the second daughter. Sometimes it's even a month before we get to see her. She lives about, 30 miles north of here and always working, has 2 jobs. I guess she needs the money, of course, like we all do. And so she's very busy. And so we have to go see her at her work, at the closer of the 2 malls that she works at. So she's a manager for a store named Papyrus, which sells cards and all kinds of stationery and perform all sorts of custom print jobs. So she's the artist of the family. Yeah. Sometimes I would go like, wow, where did you get this talent? Because definitely not from me. I can follow instructions, but I'm not what you would call a creative type person. She is. Anyway, Rusty Nelson Photography is here. Wow. He's the guy that I originally learned everything I knew then about the Pro 1000 because he's one of the first purchasers of one of those printers. And he took us through a whole bunch of tutorial type videos where he explained the ins and outs. Of course, he didn't get into refilling because that's our realm here, but he taught us about firmware, updating, and all sorts of things. So nice to have you here, Rusty. What have you been up to, my friend? Have anything new? I haven't really visited your channel lately. But if you have anything new, I would love to jump in and subscribe as well. Scott S. from Ohio is here. Wang Su Song says hello from Fullerton, Southern California. Yes, I know where that is. Eric Matias from France. Wow. It's 23. What is that? What? And I have to wake up. Oh, at 5:30. Oh, I see. It's 2300 over there. So we're using military time, 2300. That would be 11 o'clock over there. Hey, listen, don't stay up too late just because you have to, you think you have to listen to me all night long. Because we're going to be here for about 3 hours. That's the normal time frame that we usually run on. And I don't expect you to stay up that late because you do have to wake up. So catch us later on the replay. Everything will still be there. It'll be preserved just as always. Kingsbury Craft says, hello, this is Gail from Bremerton, Washington. Out west, I believe. I've been subscribed for a while. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. We just hit, on my very birthday, by the way, 26,000, and it just hit 26,100 about a day and a half ago. I saw it jump up. When you reach that level, you just don't get that incremental show of increase or decrease. It shows up like every 100. So we're at 26.1 right now, and that is just awesome. Rusty Nelson says, oh, wait a minute, George Weasley, Wheezy from Tampa, Florida is here. I got some friends in Tampa. I got a sister-in-law, brother-in-law in Northport, down there in that region. I think it's south of, oh man, I forget now. We were just at Disney World together last week. But one of my favorite guys, Dan, the drone worship channel owner, again, a true expert when it comes to that sort of subject. And he lives down in Tampa. So Again, I love that region. My sister and I would go down there a lot because she had a little apartment that she kind of kept up in St. Pete. So we passed through Tampa. Absolutely love that area. Oh boy, if I was going to move to Florida, that's where I would migrate to. Even though I'm a Disney fanboy, big time, Tampa is just too tempting. George Weasley, happy birthday, he says. Thank you so much, my friend. And Rusty Nelson says, got the Pro 4000. Wow. And opened the gallery in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. We'll be doing a talk on storm chasing photography down in your area soon. And yes, you are the refill man for sure. Yeah. Weren't you the guy that was here a while back when the big tragedy occurred this past year in Ellicott City, Maryland? Were you the one that came and invited me? I couldn't go with you that particular day if that's who you were. I have a bad time remembering. But I was getting oral surgery and oh my gosh, it was just a mess that particular week. So anyway, awesome. I will definitely keep track of your channel. I will make every effort if you ever get back here. I will join up with you. Alrighty. Okay, I think that's it for now. Again, remember, just because I got subjects to talk about, do not hesitate to ask questions that you may have. This is your chance, one-on-one. Usually, if you contract me on the phone, it's 45 big ones per hour. So right now, absolutely free unless you feel like super chatting a few bucks toward the channel. Ask anything you want. I'm here to answer if I am able. If I am not, I will then show you where to go, possibly, if I can do that, to get your answers. But most of the time, I'll be able to help you one way or another. So let's go ahead and minimize this a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and I had to jot down what I wanted to talk about to make sure that I remember. When you get to be 70 plus, that's it. Your mind starts to go other places but where you're supposed to be. All right, so if you've been watching my channel, I recently did a video about like why is it that people don't get the cleaning cycle routine of Canon printers. And they think it's something evil. They think it's something that was purposely perpetrated upon us so that we suffer from, ink loss and all of this stuff. And in a way, okay, I can dig that. I can understand where you guys are coming from. But here's the thing. If you buy, okay, what's the most, like cheap car to operate? I don't know. Maybe a smart car, you can probably go 50 miles per hour, 50 miles per gallon, I should say. Well, it's a little cramped car, so you may want to go with a Ford F-150, okay? And now you're not going to get that kind of mileage, obviously. So the same thing with these printers. Printers use a lot of ink, yeah. And it's just something that you need to get through your head. We all do. We've all been there. We freak out at the amount of ink that gets used that actually does not get used to create what? Prints. You see, this is the goal of owning a photo printer. Create prints like those. That stack that I have there is the stack that I did to test the Precision Color Signature Edition inks for the Pro 100. So, when you can produce prints that visually match OEM, you save a ton of money that way using inks such as those. The money that you save will seem like a godsend, but remember, longevity is down the toilet, okay? And that is just something you have to admit to yourself. So the only way to have both quality longevity is to use OEM, but OEM costs a lot of money, right? It sure does. So with something like the Canon series of printers, they run these cleaning cycles, and they're just untamable. You can't cancel them. You cannot disable them. They have to run. Oh, but they're wasting all my ink, and I print daily. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The fact that you print daily is what really is the real reason, and I know makes zero sense, is the real reason why these printers, the Canon series using thermal technology type printheads, they have to run cleaning cycles. There's no other way to remove debris from the printhead. That debris builds up and is created with the firing of these droplets of ink because they utilize heat. If it was a cold firing printhead like Epson uses, and I'm not sure whether that technology is patented or not. Absolutely, I have no clue. Okay, so if they were able to do that, then there would not be any kind of buildup as a result of literally boiling ink droplets onto paper. Okay, if you boil like tap water, when I lived in Europe, the water is extremely high in mineral count. So if you boiled water till there was nothing left in the pot, you will see literally little granules of deposits of calcium and other minerals. So imagine what happens when you boil off ink, especially pigment ink. You leave all sorts of little residues behind that stay in the printhead internally. That has to be pushed out, or your printhead will not last. Then you'll really be upset. Okay, so after creating this video where I try to explain the process, and I'm not going to go through that again, the timer, the 60 hours, 120 hours, how it relates to your original cleaning cycle that you may have triggered during a print job, and now you have this window of time where you can print all you want and not generate another cleaning cycle until you go beyond a certain time frame. And then the next print job generates another cleaning cycle, and so on and so on and so on. All right, well, those cleaning cycles are really not there to unclog your printhead because it thinks your printhead is clogging up as it normally would, meaning ink is drying on its own and creating a crusty mess around your nozzles, the little holes that where ink passes through. Eventually they will close up and no ink can get past. That nozzle will come out blank on your nozzle check. And not only that, if you continue to print, that nozzle will overheat. There's little resistors behind each one of those. They will overheat and become damaged, irreplaceable. Cannot be, not irreplaceable, irreparable damage. So the cleaning cycles are not necessarily for that. You still need to print to make sure that your printhead is kept free flowing. But the problem with printing is that you also generate residue, which needs to be pushed out. So regardless whether no residue was created, you will still need to print often. And if you didn't print often, you would clog your printhead and you would have to run a cleaning cycle. But when you print, because you do create residue, you still have to run a cleaning cycle because it's the only process that will push out that residue. Now, I wish they had some sort of secondary tank by the printhead area that would then push some clear fluid through during that cleaning cycle. But then you would end up having to reprime your printhead with ink because it would be primed with what? With cleaning fluid. So you see, there's really no really good way to avoid this. It has to use ink. There's really nothing else in the system as it exists now where you can use some other liquid, alternative liquid to perform these flushing actions. And we'll call them flushing actions because really that's what they are. They're flushing residue, stuff that builds up during the printing process. Yeah, they would have to do a complete from the ground up redesign of these printers to be able to, avoid doing that, ever having to do that. And I don't see that happening whatsoever. So something we need to, accept. Now, I did an addendum video. So I hope I didn't scare the living what out of you when it comes to Canon printers. It's just part of the nature of the beast, like they say. And Epson printers don't really push that on you because, like I said, Epson printers don't develop this residue as you print. It's just ink passing through, and it's being pushed through. The little droplets are created mechanically and not because it's being boiled and that liquid expands and it is ejected like a little bullet. So not like that at all for Epson. So you don't have that requisite. You don't have to run these time cleaning cycles. But if you don't print for a month on a P800, when you next print, it's going to run a lengthy cleaning cycle. And it needs to, because you neglected the printer for a whole month. Okay, no excuse. You did. So now it has to run a clean cycle. And you hope to the gods above that, the printing gods and also the real God, that this is enough to unclog anything that may have, occurred during that month of neglect. Simple as that. And you would run a nozzle check and check to see if everything is hunky-dory and then proceed to print. If it is not, then you got to run yet another cleaning cycle to clear that possible clog that you generated through that 1 month or 2 months or 6 months or whatever. There's no avoiding it, especially in a very dry environment. You would then exasperate that drying process inside the print head or at the nozzle plate level and possibly have some clogs when you try to print the next time. So no way to avoid that. Print, 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 print. That's the only way to avoid that now. So I did an addendum video because somebody did actually call me to what's the term? On the carpet. Because back in the day, I did state, and I had documentation to prove it, and I showed it to all of you. I removed those videos, by the way, and I may have to remove others as well. It was the thought, because we saw it leaked in a document. It was a service manual for the 9500 Mark II from Canon, and it clearly stated, it gave you the cleaning cycle timers, time periods, but it stated clearly that if you just print something, it will return that timer back to 0, and you can avoid those cleaning cycles. Well, that's not true. So my theory mentally, and that can be really bad, is that maybe it was mistranslated from the Japanese original text, because this came from Canon Japan. So that's all I'm thinking, but it was as clear as day, black and white, right there for everyone to read, that if you just simply print something before the 60 hours, then on the 61st hour, you would not have a clean cycle because the timer would reset back to 0. So I thought, all you have to do is set up QImage and just generate a print, one of those purge sheets every 59 hours, and you'd be good to go. You would use up a lot less ink than you do on a clean cycle. Well, no, that's not true. You can do that all day long at the 59th and 29 minutes and 59 minutes. And as soon as you go over 60, you will generate a clean cycle. It's as simple as that. So that was wrong information, but it wasn't our fault because that was written black and white on that document. And so that's what everybody started to spread around, not just me. And so, I got called on the carpet about that. And so I said, yep, you're right. So I did an addendum video. You might want to catch it and view it later. I explain everything as clearly as I possibly can and admit to the mistakes that we, in fact, all of us refilling folks, including Mike, Precision Colors, including Martin from Octo Ink in England, all of those folks, we thought the same thing. And you got to remember that back then, there was no such thing as a resetter for the Pro 100. Okay? So we were utilizing the resetter for the CLI 8 cartridges, which actually would reset only the colors that were currently being used on the 9000 Mark II. So none of the grays, see, the 9000 Mark II didn't have grays, so the grays could not be reset. The grays from the CLI 42 family could not be reset. So in comes Red Setter and produces a resetter for that printer that now works. So we were disabling ink monitoring. We were doing all sorts of really, unnecessary nowadays operations to get us to be able to refill these cartridges. It was crazy. We didn't really know what we were doing back then either. So things were not operating that well. Cartridges were not, providing ink flow as they should have. Now we know a lot better, and now we're able to consistently and confidently print. Confidently? Yeah. Print with the Pro 100 using third-party products. That wasn't the case just a few years ago. Anywho, so that is it for that. I had a question, but I just saw a bunch of new things here on the chat, so let me see if anyone is asking anything that we can discuss here. Henry Stoffel, hello from everyone in Wells, Maine. Nice to see Epson moving from the black switch in their newest HI and high-end price printers. I hope it transfers to the N. What is N? I don't know what that means, but yeah. So here's the deal. So what is preventing, the reason for this is extremely simple. It's not rocket science. Epson has been using the same design, not the same exact printhead, okay, but the same design utilizing 8 channels. Well, you can't squeeze 9 inks into 8 channels, okay? So PK and MK has to share 1 channel. And that's the reason for that. The P400, formerly the R2000, and formerly the R1900, and formerly, it keeps going back. Anyway, those printers had an 8-channel printhead, and they also had PK and MK, and they did not share the same channel. They each had their own individual channel. How did they do that? 8 colors, not 9. So that's how they were able to do that. Well, on the newer printers with 12 channels, it's easy. You see what I mean? So what they need to do, if they were ever going to even consider making a 9, utilizing the current 9-color ink palette, like the so-called K3, Ultrachrome K3 HD or non-HD ink palette, they would have to create a 9-channel printhead. No way, and you know what? They're going to create a 9-channel printhead. Okay, they're not going to do that. They're just going to jump to either 11 or 12 channels and have one heck of a printer that is going to be extremely high-end and only for those big production studios to use, not us home users, unless you do have the room and you do have the bucks, because they are not going to be cheap. But yeah, that's the sole reason for this problem, if you want to call it that, of that black ink switch valve, which supposedly was readdressed and slightly redesigned, and so far, so good. So far, I haven't heard any P600 users complaining that they switch and now they have a blank channel or they have a leaky cartridge. P800, the same thing. I haven't heard a negative word, that is, about any of these new valves that have been incorporated into these printers. Mike B, aka the Drone Ranger. Yes, how you doing, buddy? I've been watching all the last live streams, and I've been trying to squeeze in some of those live streams with Dan, so we can discuss and at least give me, be able to contribute my 2 cents, if you will, maybe 1.5 cents. But nice to see you, that you're here. And again, let's plan this fall something, my friend. Let's get together and do something. I'm not that far away from you. Wang Su says, Sung purchased a used Canon Pixma Pro 100 in Los Angeles last week. Bought a set of flush cards from a seller on eBay. Yeah, that's Mike. No, Rick. I'm sorry. Rick Johnson, I believe it is his name, maybe. I forget, but you know who I'm talking about. Purchased SE inks from Precision Colors and set it all up yesterday. Awesome. That's great. That's great. Really, that's the way to go. There's really no reason to not do that. I mean, you get results like this, my friend. This is Precision SE with the new cyan. Okay, there it is. Precision SE with the new cyan. And this is the results you get. Let me take the shine away. And then we have, let me get the OEM. So here's OEM. You see that? OEM. And let me line this up. OEM on top, PC on the bottom. There you go. How about that? OEM here, PC right here. Let me back up. How about that? You can't ask for more, can you? Now, of course, longevity is going to drop. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's simple. If that was the case, OEM would go bankrupt. That's why people still buy OEM, because of the longevity. If I want these to last, I'll take my can of Hanamiel spray or, desert varnish from Moab, give it a couple of coats, done. It'll last decades that way. Seriously. All right. Glad to hear that you got that set up. And again, I appreciate the fact that you give me credit for the instructional videos that I've been able to produce on that subject. Alan Huntley, on the Facebook group, you said that PC bulk inks dye have a shelf life of 6 months. Martin Octo Ink told me that blah, 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 18. Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the deal. Why the difference? Caution. Here's the deal that maybe Martin is not telling you. Dye inks require a biocide, meaning a component in the liquid media with no dye, okay, just the clear media, that will actually inhibit growth of what? Of what? Spores of fungus, okay, fungal spores. They're everywhere. If you think you're actually practicing your refilling technique cleanly, you really are not, okay? Every time you wash your needles, every time you wash your syringes, every time you assemble everything, and you let them sit on a tabletop, fungal spores are landing on it. So you take that needle and you insert it into your brand new bottle, okay? Guess what you did? You just basically contaminated that ink. But the biocide will kill those spores. But after 6 months, the half-life begins to kick in, and it will no longer be as effective. I will not use any dye ink. I don't care from who. See, Martin, I love the guy. We are like this, okay? Martin uses Image Specialist inks from the USA, okay? They're not made in Europe. They're not made in China. They're American-made. Image Specialist. Now, Image Specialist was bought out and incorporated into STS, a company located in Florida. Bigger ink manufacturing company. They now own Image Specialists. They allow them to keep their lab intact, and they are producing inks for them, but still under their name. Okay, great products. Precision Colors uses Image Specialists as well, except their inks have been basically blended. Okay, blended to be as close a match to OEM as you saw what I just showed you. Okay, that's the difference. Octo Ink, again, the same excellent inks. They may require a bit of profiling to get them to come to as close as these inks. These prints were printed with the driver. Okay, the driver. No custom profiling. So there you go. Now, about these, the so-called shelf life. Yeah. If you work with sterile technique, then sure. Okay, go ahead. But if you do not, if you, just like every one of us, I use a bottle with an attached needle, and I clean that needle every time with a alcohol pad. I go through a lot of alcohol pads. Yeah, let me tell you. I also clean my refill port. Okay, I wipe that and I insert the ink and I put the plug back in. That's, going to help. That's not going to ensure perfect sterile technique. My plug alone will contaminate the inks now. Why is it so important? Well, If you use inks that are too old, the biocide loses its ability to prevent or at least slow down the growth of any kind of biologicals. So what do you want to use? Ink that's not older than, say, a year. Okay, but again, it's all up to you. The claims will be totally different, but I will stick to a more cautious approach. Do not buy as more ink than you will use in 6 to 8 months, at the most a year. So you buy your little 2 ounce bottle, 2 ounce bottles, and then proceed to work, proceed to refill, and then after a few months, you'll figure out, what kind of volume of ink you're going to be running through your printer, and then only replenish ink at the smaller, or if you print like crazy, larger volumes, because you want to go through all of your inks within about a year max. 6 months is the cover your what date. Okay, if somebody blatantly says 18 months, they're not covering their what. I really agree with that. They are not covering their butt as they should be, because I would not be making such a warranty to you. Okay, no way. It's too dangerous. I went through this. I had a printhead get clogged up to the point where it burnt by fungus. Okay, that was growing in my ink bottle due to contamination. Okay, so not something you want to take a chance on, because on a Canon printhead, that'll be the death of it. So you don't want to take a chance. Look at your inks as something precious. Okay, it is. OEM ink is the most expensive liquid in the world. So third party, not so much, but still treat it with some degree of decency, if you will. And your refilling process should be as clean as possible. Make believe you're working in a lab and you don't want to contaminate everything. I have 24 years of lab experience, so I know what I'm talking about. So again, don't listen to some of these claims. Only buy as much ink as you're going to use in 6 to 8 months, maximum a year. And that's from the time you crack open the bottle, okay? And puncture that seal. I don't say this just, to spout. No, this is from experience. Alrighty. Yeah, I think the weather is going to turn on us rather quickly. I am looking for mid-month this October. We're going to be traveling back up to Pennsylvania for a weekend this time. And so I plan to take my drones and cameras and do some of the foliage shots that I look forward to shooting. I hope it just doesn't go from normal to just brown and everything falls off. I hope we have a nice gradual changing of the colors, if you will, so I can take advantage of that and try to do some footage from, maybe a couple 100 feet up in the air and see what we can see. Hopefully. Weather here, like I said, was about 63, 64 today. It went from, like, the other day, it was close to 90. So crazy, right? Okay. Stodd, STODD 37. I see her. Wait a minute. I just met somebody. I don't want to do that. Here we go. Red Solaris 1. Does this mean you are wasting twice the ink on the Pro 10 versus the Pro 100 in cleaning cycles? Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because although the Pro 100, that cleaning cycle doesn't kick in until you have bypassed 120 hours. Okay? And actually, the volume of ink, I've had it reported to me. I have not done like weight tests of each cartridge. That's crazy. But I've had it reported to me that is less total volume than, say, the Pro 10. Now, the Pro 10, if you print regularly, like every single day, then after 60 hours, every time you print your next job and that has exceeded 60 hours, that job will include a cleaning cycle. Pro 100 is every 120 hours because it's dye based. it doesn't produce as much residue as the Pro 10, which is pigment based, or the Pro 1 or the Pro 1000. Same thing. As long as it's pigment based, it'll be 60 hours. Twice as much? Well, you could do this. Print only every 120 hours. It'll run one cleaning cycle. It'll be a little bit bigger. It's not going to be twice as big. It'll run a little bit bigger cleaning cycle. And yeah, you're still wasting ink because it has to do it. The only thing I disagree with this, I try to be like really, okay, I understand Canon and why you do this. But on the other hand, I realize that, wait a minute, what if I choose simply not to print? If printing creates residue that needs to be flushed, then why do I have to run a clean cycle just because I didn't print? You see what I mean? I think that's just ingrained in there. They don't know how to, or they haven't come up with a way to differentiate. Okay, this guy didn't really print, so he probably doesn't have any residue buildup. So we'll let him get by with either a very small clean cycle or none at all. Well, they don't do that. You get the clean cycle whether you like it or not. I disagree with that. I haven't had it explained to me why that's even necessary. But yeah, so what I do, since I'm refilling, okay, and even on the Pro 1000, I'm refilling with OEM. I got big old 750 ml cartridges, OEM cartridges that I can take ink from and use it to refill my smaller, 80 ml cartridges for the Pro 1000. I don't care about ink anymore. What I try to do is print more images onto paper so that I can take more of that ink and produce beautiful prints rather than just fill my maintenance cartridge during that maintenance type cleaning cycles or purgings or flushings. Put more ink on prints. Don't use the bulk of your ink to generate cleaning cycles. Oh, wait a minute. I know what the problem is. See, you don't have enough work. Okay, so you should be printing probably 50 times more. Let me reword that. You should be using 50 times more ink on the production of prints than you do in those flushing cycles, cleaning cycles, purges. I don't have that much work. What do you mean? And that's a lot of ink I'd be using. Yes, that's the bad news. I was going to say the secret, but that's the bad news about home printing, especially with the Canon printers. That's it. I rather, print when I took on these sets of Canon printers, I knew what I was getting into. I knew from the very start. The only reason at all I got them was because I needed to have them here for the channel so that I can run all sorts of tests for you guys to then digest and learn from at my expense, really, because it's all on me. I may not be printing enough in that Pro 1000. So every time I run a small print job, anything, even this is from the Pro 100, but this could very well be done on the Pro 1000. If I do that like every 3 to 4, 5, 6 days, it's going to be preceded with a cleaning cycle that will waste more ink than I used to create this print. Does that make sense? I just blew maybe 5 ml total ink and I only use about 2.5 on that print. That makes no sense. It's like I bought a gallon of milk for $4, but I gave the guy $5 extra. For what? Right? That's exactly what you're doing. You're throwing away $5 or $6 extra every time you use $2 to create a print. If that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. So think about that, guys. You need to print. You need to print. Once you set that printer up, now you gotta print. You gotta print. Or just don't print at all. And hope for the best next time you try to print. Yeah, it'll run a clean cycle, but at least you haven't wasted ink every 60 hours because you were only, see, it's a catch-22. We're between a rock and a hard place, as they say. So again, that's the big, gigantic commitment okay, that you don't realize you're getting into. And I kind of did. And so, I knew what I was getting into, but I had to do it because I had to have a Pro 1000 here for you guys to have me make, tests on and videos about. And the same thing with a Pro 100 and so forth. I was here to test all this stuff. So I had to have them. I really didn't need them. I didn't need them at all. I had Epson printers that don't do that. Okay. But I had to have those printers. So otherwise, I wouldn't be the go-to guy, as somebody told me about Canon printers at this point. So, not trying to brag. That's what people tell me. And I go like, really? Wow, I didn't realize that. Okay, fine. I'm glad I have these here. Now I got them all at pretty good prices, so it's not like it was a huge investment in my part. But still, once I got them and once I have them operating, boy, then you're committed. You are stuck. You're stuck to these printers and you better use them. Yeah. I hate to say stuff like that. I really do. But it's the truth. All right, let's continue on to maybe slightly more happy subjects. All right, so Heartbeat Productions from Northern Canada. He says, howdy, I don't think you've been here before. Awesome. Love your videos and learn a lot from you. Keep up the great videos. Thank you. I sure will. As long as people like you are watching and enjoying what I put out, I will continue. And he says he loves his new Pro 1000. Awesome. Levite Apparel is here, and he's learning a lot, he says. Awesome. I did take a peek at your channel, my friend. Nice stuff you got there. By the way, if you guys don't know, Levite Apparel, just like the name says, apparel, creates all sorts of different types of apparel by sublimation. Okay. And he's using the Workforce 1710 for that. Mike B says, for everyone to hit that like button, unless I said something to merely make you mad, which I don't think I did. I think I just kind of, what was that? Tough love. I don't like to use that term, but and I may be considered blunt. Well, bluntness sometimes is required to get the point across. This is not a subject where you can just go, oh, don't worry, buddy. I'll sugarcoat it for you. Don't worry about those cleaning cycles. No. Why? Why would I hide that from you? Okay, why would I do that? Then you'd really be upset with me later. So might as well bring it out in the open. That's what we do around here. Alan Huntley. Thank you, Jose, for a wealth of info. Well, thank you. It's not that I'm an expert. It's just that I've been at this for a very long time. And I have picked up all sorts of information from other people. That's what my brother-in-law just told me this past week down there. We got into conversations, and whatever he brought up, I could stand side by side with him. And he was a high school teacher. Okay. And yeah, I was head to head. Sometimes I passed him. Yeah. So he just marveled at the way that I take on learning. When I pick a subject to learn, I dive right into it. And sometimes a little bit too hard. But anyway, that's the only way to learn. And you got to learn to listen to other people. You're not the smartest, person in the classroom. Other people are smarter than you. And so you learn from everybody. Then once you got that well-rounded knowledge, you spread it. You spread it out. Don't die with it. No, don't do that. I worked for too many people that way that did that. And I thought, oh my gosh, you mean I got to do this the hard way? I got to make mistakes. I got to stumble all over the place before I get something right. And you got the answer for me and you're not willing to give it to me? Because I'm supposed to spend the next 20 years, struggling to figure out how to do things that they don't teach you in school? No, 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 no. That is wrong. Wrong attitude. All right. Let's see. Heartbeat Production says, I had an Epson 4900. Long story short, the head clogged so badly it was garbage. Bought a Canon Pro 1000. So if the cleaning cycle prevents garbaging a machine, I am okay with that. That's the way. That's one way to look at it. I got my little Halloween candies here. I love these things. I shouldn't be eating them, but they're great. Tried to give one to Nathan and he hated it. He said, it's too sweet, Grandpa. Oh, well. When you get old like me, you love that sweet stuff. And so far, my blood numbers are like a teenager, I was told the last time I had it checked, which was not even a month ago. So that's good. Anyway, yeah, it's a great printer. It's a great printer once you get used to its idiosyncrasies. We're going to talk about that maybe if we have enough time. I got a whole list of stuff that I want to discuss. Let me finish up real quick right here because I don't want to ignore anyone. That's bad. I see too many live streams where the chat is totally ignored by the person giving the live stream. It makes me feel like, why should I come back next week, if you're going to do that. Heartbeat says, I print because I love doing it, so I don't really concern myself with the price of ink or how much it uses. Derek Odway, and I believe you're new as well. Thank you for hopping on the live stream tonight. Do you have a video about matching DPI to the printer, or is it better to let the printer decide what to do with the odd DPI number? Well, first of all, DPI is a incorrect term. Okay? Big mistake that people make, including very famous people out there. DPI is dots per inch, and that only pertains to the printer. Okay, not your image. The printer can take 1 pixel and create that pixel worth of image with about maybe even 12 dots of ink. Okay, DPI is printer resolution, not image resolution. So what happens? Regardless of the PPI of your image, okay, the driver will convert it, will upscale it or downscale it so that it is at 300 PPI for a Canon printer and 360 PPI for an Epson printer. Now, that is what's considered the native resolution of printers. So Epson 360, Canon 300. Now, depending on the size that you're creating, say if you're making something small, it may not require 300. So it might actually resize it to 150, half of that PPI, or in the case of Epson, 180 PPI. Okay? So remember that. PPI, DPI, not interchangeable, my friend. Okay? PPI is pixels per inch. That pertains to your image resolution. And DPI is dots per inch and only applies to what the printer does to create an image composed of dots. Okay? And I have done videos on that, by the way. So there's over, gosh, how many videos do I have now? Close to 1,400 videos and about 60 plus playlists. And they're all categorized by subject matter. So if you're curious about anything, just dive into my playlist page and check out what I have. In fact, I'm going to show you that right now. Why not? Here we go. Let's see what we're doing here. What are we doing here? Okay. All right. Here we go. We are here. So this is my channel. Go to the playlist tab. And here are all the playlists. Okay. And you can go on and on and on and on. And on and on and on and on. They're all categorized by name or subject. So go in there. I have a plain, I have one playlist for everything you can think of. Okay. So check that out, and then you should be able to find everything you want. You don't have to search through the over 1,300 videos. Just go by playlist. Don't click on the play all, because then you'll be watching the whole playlist. Click here on view full playlist. For instance, photo printing techie or drones or Pixma Pro 10. Click on that. And then here are all the videos contained in that particular playlist about the Pixma Pro 10. As you can see, quite a few. All right. So I hope that clarifies that. And please don't, misuse the term of DPI and PPI. Like I said, too many people misuse that. Neither one of them has anything to do with each other. Okay. Okay, let's see. Whoa. Make sure that I don't skip anyone here. Andres says, Charlebois. Oops, you missed me. Any ideas why the new Canon Pro 1000 OEM cards do not have expiration dates? All my other printer cards have them. I have no clue why. What do you mean? What do they mean? They last forever? I highly doubt that. I don't understand that either. That's something that used to be included, maybe in the box that they come in. I don't know. Ours that we have here came in just a little plastic wrap that you remove and you open up. So they were not in a box like you would get if you were to purchase one at a shop or online. No idea why that would not be included. Good question. I may have to ask Mike about that. Heartbeat Production says they do not. Andre? Does anyone here know why? Or why that would be the case? Because I know the P800 cartridges certainly do have that. George Weasley. Weasley. I keep saying Weasley. George Weasley says, question, can you talk about what would be the best practice for minimum or maximum number of prints, which would be done to limit the cleaning cycles? Okay, there's nothing to limit the cleaning cycles on a Pro 100, Pro 1, Pro 10, Pro 1000, Pro 2000, any of the Canon printers. Nothing you could do to limit the cleaning cycles at all. Okay, I could print every 5 minutes. And print number 1 at 12 midnight creates a cleaning cycle. So when I set my clock, I wind it up and I set it and it starts to tick down. Okay. And I print I stay up all day and all night and I print something every 5 minutes until I hit 120 hours and 1 second. Every single print that I make between that first one that generated a clean cycle, okay, and the one that goes over the 120 hours, none of those previous prints, except for the first one, will generate a clean cycle. None of them will, okay? You send a job, it begins to print. As soon as I hit 120 hours and 1 second, the next print job will generate a clean cycle. Now, what did I do by printing a print every 5 minutes? I created a ton of prints, didn't I? None of them that were within that 120-hour window, excepting the first one, of course, generated a clean cycle. So say just for the sake of just, coming up with this crazy, explanation. Say I generated 300 prints. I don't know how many I made. 300 prints. And they each used up 2 ml of ink. So total. So that means I used 600 ml of ink. That's a lot. Oh, I'm selling these, by the way, so I'm making money. Okay, so that justifies this little scenario. So I used up 600 ml of ink. I ran a clean cycle in the beginning. It used up, say, 5 ml total. Pretty good ratio, right? Ink on paper, which means photos that I can sell for money. And ink that was used in the cleaning cycle, the very first print, 5 ml. That's a very good ratio. What if I did not print anything after that first one? So that first print cost me 2 ml of ink, but I generated a waste of 5 ml of ink. My ratio now is against me, isn't it? And I didn't print anything until 120 hours and 1 second. Guess what that next print generates? Another clean cycle. You see what I mean? I hope you get this, okay? It's really quite simple. There's no rocket science to this. It pays to print more. Yeah, you use more ink, of course, but that's what the printer is for, okay? And I don't want to sound opinionated toward this, but really there's no other option. There is no other option for you. Unless somebody comes up and tells me, hey, Jose, if you do this and this and this, you will eliminate those clean cycles. Oh, I'll be glad to test that. No, you can't do that. There's nothing that will eliminate or stop those cycles from occurring. Okay? So really there's no way. Print as much as you can between those windows of free time now. There are other things that take place in your Pro 1000 that we really need to discuss, as well as others. Even the Pro 100 will do the same thing. If we have time tonight, I'll go ahead and discuss that. If not, I'll just go ahead and create a video specifically covering up, or not covering up, but covering those subjects, those little things that the Pro 1000 does behind your back. Not behind your back. Boy, that sounds insidious. No. Behind the scenes, there you go. To maintain itself in perfect, good working condition. It does that for you. You know why? Because we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it for the printer. So the printer has to do it for itself. Because it knows darn well we're not going to do it. Okay? So we marvel at the fact that, oh my gosh, the Pro 1000, no matter what I send to it, it always prints perfectly. Yeah, but there's a price that comes with that. Okay. So if we have time tonight, I'll talk a little bit about that. If not, I will be making a video that will be available this week, this coming week. That'll be the next one down the pike that I will plan to do. We have 41 people with us tonight right now, so excellent. Make sure you say hello, okay? Make sure you say hello to everybody so we all know who you are and where you are watching from. That's very important for us. This is a community. This is a group. This is like a big meeting. We're in a room by ourselves. There's no one on a podium talking. It's just a dude like me just sitting with you guys and discussing, okay? So this is what we want. We want a little camaraderie between everybody here. So we need to know where you are from. That's excellent to know. And of course, if you are the first, this is the first time you came here with us, we also need to know that, because that kind of keeps me motivated to continue doing this. Because if I see just the same group of people every time, yeah, okay, I'm reaching out this particular small group of 26,000 so-called subscribers. You see what I mean? So it's heartwarming to be able to see new names here. And if you're new, please let us know. And please let everyone else know. They'll say hi to you. We are a very friendly community here. All right, so enough of that. Let's see what else we got here. And then we'll go ahead and quickly cover what I wanted to talk about. Okay. Yeah, Andre wants to know does that mean that their inks last longer? Well, not having an expiration date would make me think that they would last forever, right? And I don't think that's the case. Now, what would make, that's a good question. I had a little light bulb just go off. What causes ink to go bad? Well, exposure to air, contaminants, just maybe outside, not necessarily biologicals, but dirt, junk, whatever, and you go ahead and continue to inoculate your inks with external invaders. Yeah, that will reduce the lifespan, but think about this. And I don't understand why Canon still puts on their, expiration dates. It may be a couple of years for them when you buy it. Canon cartridges and Epson cartridges, they're a little bit different. We talk about just the Pro 1000 and say the P800. The P800 cartridges, their inks live inside a bag, and that bag is, welded to the valve assembly. So the air that is used to repressurize the internal space in the cartridge never touches the ink. Okay, the ink is living inside that bag, and the only way that ink can get out and be exposed to anything externally is to be popped into that ink compartment. The poppet valve is depressed, and then the ink can flow into the ink lines. Is it getting exposed to air? No. Is it getting exposed to, I don't know, bad things? Not really. Okay, so really there's not much danger of that ink going bad. Refillable cartridges? Oh yeah. I mean, they don't have an ink bag. As ink goes out and leaves that cartridge, air gets in to replace the space. Otherwise, you create a vacuum and ink can't flow. So yeah, refillable cartridges, they don't have that. They don't afford you that preventive situation where the inks are never exposed to air or anything that could possibly contaminate it. The same thing with the Pro 1000. They don't have an ink bag, but they do have the only way that ink can get out is by popping it into the ink compartment. Now here's where it gets a little bit weird, and you would think that, well, then they shouldn't claim that there's no expiration. Here's the deal. Epson cartridges, when the ink bag starts to collapse because ink is exiting and being utilized, then air enters the outside, actually internally, but outside of the bag, and fills that space up to maintain the proper operating pressure. Now, Canon printers are gravity fed. They don't pressurize their cartridges. But, and here's the weird thing, the ink leaves, and you would think that would create a vacuum, right? So how do you prevent a vacuum? Well, the valve that inserts into your cartridge has two purposes: to allow ink to exit and be fed to your printhead, and allow air to get in and vent the system. Otherwise, you would have, again, a vacuum building up because there's no other port in that cartridge body. It is just one single unit with a valve and a poppet valve. And the valve, not the valve, but the spigot that goes into it has a dual purpose: to allow air to get in as ink is going out. So you maintain that normal atmospheric pressure. That's how it works. You would think, unless they're filtering air somehow, the air that's going back into your cartridge, unless the printer has some sort of purification system for that air, I would think that, dust and spores are possibly getting in. Does it really matter? Probably not. Not within the time frame that you're going to use one cartridge, for instance. You might be done with that one cartridge in 3 months, 4 months. Nothing's going to happen in that short amount of time. I'm not sure. It's all speculation at this point. So I really don't know what would prompt them to not put an expiration date, unless it exists on the cartridges that you buy that are inside a box. For instance, maybe there is where they actually print that. I don't know yet. I haven't bought one yet. Everything that I have came with a printer. And again, it was like out of the box in little wrappers. So, but it's a good question. And, I'm going to have to talk about that to Mike next time I speak with him. Okay. Very cool. Thank you. Derek says, very cool. Thank you. I'm really enjoying your content and presentation style. I will look into those playlists. Yeah, I have a ton of them. So take a peek in there. And if you're really bored one day, and I hope you're not, take a look at my family playlist. It's really fun. You will get to see this guy when I'm not doing this. Okay. I'm out with my grandson. I'm out with family. I'm out doing other stuff that I just decide to document and include, because I want you guys to kind of see, the other side of me. I don't want to have a two-faced personality. You will see me the way I am now is the way that I am regularly. And people tell me that all the time. Anyway, let's see. Heartbeat Productions. Jose, do you use a Mavic Air drone at all? I do not have any DJI products. At this point, they're just a little bit too costly. And I'm going to do a live stream where I'm going to be addressing the situation with DJI right now in the United States. Because apparently there are some tariffs that have been imposed. And all of a sudden, if you look at their website, many of their models are not even available. Okay, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about a brand new drone that may kick the DJI Mavic Pro Series. Okay, it's called the Skydio 2. We're going to cover that as well. And again, at this point, I basically use Parrot products. So I got the Parrot Bebop, Parrot Anafi, and at this point, I am entirely satisfied with those. Yeah, of course, if I had 3 times the amount of money, I would buy probably a Mavic Pro because it is indeed a great drone. I just don't have the bucks for that because I wouldn't want to buy a used one. I would want to buy a brand spanking new one with the with the other, what is it, the more fun to fly or something like that option, which gives you extra batteries, case, and the whole shebang. But anyway, this new Skydio, I'm telling you, you look into it, Skydio, okay, check it out, the R2 model. Yeah. Alrighty. At the end, I'm going to show you a video. Let me see if it's done encoding. Yes, it is. I already posted it on my YouTube channel, but I don't want to show it to you through your YouTube. I went ahead and re-encoded it because I forgot to save a copy on my hard drive. Dummy. So after I uploaded it, I went ahead and deleted it, and I realized, wait a minute, I want to show you guys what I just did, and I did not copy. I did not keep the copy after I uploaded it. And besides, YouTube sort of degrades the quality a little bit once it starts to go through the processing steps. It's not going to be as high a bit rate as it was when you created it. So it does degrade it a little bit. William J. McCall says, update on chipless solutions. Just finished topping off all refillable carts with the P800 and printer screens still showing full after installing carts. And also check is perfect. Thank you for your help. That is the best news I've ever heard, okay, so far. And people are just coming out and telling me this. It works. Folks, you got a P800, $60. Chipless solutions. And you can make that printer basically not require chips any longer. It does require them. Okay, it does require them. The cartridge has to have a chip. Otherwise, you will damage stuff internally. But it doesn't rely on the chip to report the ink levels any longer. It relies on the chip to basically verify that that cartridge is yellow. That cartridge is magenta. It has to know that. But as far as levels, like I was telling Mike, if you can come up with a way to always show full, okay, and even though the driver or the firmware may say, wait a minute, what's going on? It should have been empty a long time ago. Let me hit empty. And it doesn't go empty. It stays full. There's nothing it can do. So this is a new rewritten firmware, if you will, that you install on your P800 using the process that they give you step by step. I covered that earlier live stream. You go through the process, and when you are done, that P800 running on refillable cartridges will be showing full constantly. And by the way, as a bonus, the so-called maintenance cartridge will always show up as empty. And you have to manually replace the insides and repack it with any kind of absorbent material that would absorb water-based liquids, in other words, okay? Diapers, paper towels, whatever. Anything that will absorb water-based liquids. And it always shows up as empty. So you have to kind of manually, every once in a while, check the levels visually with your eyeballs. Open up that lid, check your levels, and if you need to top anything up, top it off. Never ever allow your refillable Epson cartridges to run empty. Let me show you what goes on here. Thank you, I really appreciate you brought that subject up, because although I wasn't going to bring that up at this point, now I think I will. I don't know if you all can see this. You see where my finger is pointing? Right here. You see the little circular space? That is the priming chamber. So when you refill this through the top, basically you open up the side, and you refill it, it's not going to fill that chamber. It's just not going to. So what you need to do is pull this little plug right here. There's a little plug here on the side. I don't want to do that and then lose that plug, so I got to be careful. There's a port that you can attach a syringe to. You're going to suck back, just create some vacuum, and it will automatically fill that chamber up. Now you're ready to print. Do not, emphasize, big letters, do not ever let your cartridge right here get so low that you lose your prime. Okay? Always top these things off every chance you get. Now here's something that I did. I drilled a little hole here in the corner, and this allows me to refill this cartridge in place. Because how are you going to refill this in place? You have to take it out, hold it vertically, fill that up, top it off, and then plug it back up. Where's the hole? Plug it back up, reinsert it. Okay? With this little modification, this one's bad. This one's too loose. My bad. I should have used a slightly smaller drill bit. Now you can refill it in place, and you refill it till the ink is almost to the top. That's all. And then plug it back up. Simple. You never remove the cartridge. And because you now have a chipless system, that card chip will be reporting its volume as always full. So that's the danger. Because you're always full, you may not check your levels. So get a little paranoid. It's best to be paranoid and check as often as possible. Okay, the same thing with your maintenance cartridge. Check that, you'll be good to go. It's working flawlessly, folks. I have a chip decoder board that's $400. It was given to me by Incal, and I've been using that. Yeah, I have 30 full resets. That's fine. I'll just stick with that. The beauty of that is that I can still see my ink levels indicated as normal, like a normal, cartridge that you buy OEM would do that. The only thing that's different is that I severed the connections from the chip readers. Okay, when you insert the cartridge, there's a chip reader that connects to your chip and reads the information from the chip. That's been severed. Those cables were disconnected and they were attached to the ports on the board itself. That board hangs outside. It's double sticky tape to the back panel of the printer, and that's what I rely on now. So when one of those chips, because there are 9 embedded chips in that board, and each one of those chips contains 30 reset codes. In other words, 30 for yellow, 30 for magenta, 30 for vivid magenta, and so on and so on and so on. The negative side of that is that you cannot individually reset cartridges. It's the whole group at once. So whenever one goes empty and it gets declared as unrecognizable, that'll happen. That might scare you a little bit, but basically that just means that the chip says, hey, you're empty. Hopefully you've been topping off those cartridges so they don't actually go physically empty. At that point, you press the button and you have the board plugged in to the USB, and you press a button and you're good to go. It resets everything back to full and you continue printing. Well, the chipless solution is always full. No need to do anything. Just top off the carts. You only have one job to do. Do it correctly. Keep those carts topped off and keep that maintenance cartridge from actually overflowing with waste ink that you will, inevitably, generate. That's just part of the printing process. Alrighty. So I'm glad that that's been working. Great. Mike B, aka the Drone Ranger, says I don't think he has a Mavic Air or any. Yeah. He does have several Parrot drones. I'll tell you what I have for those who care. I have two unique Q500s, 4K, fabulous birds. Extremely good controller. It's like It's like the controller that DJI should have created a long time ago. You've heard of the DJI smart controller because it has a built-in screen. Big deal. Unique has had that for ages now. And again, it's an Android system built into the controller. Fabulous. And the same thing goes for the Unique H models. Those things are fantastic. Hexacopters. Yeah. For about a quarter of the price of a DJI Inspire. Really. And I think as good. So anyway, I also have a bunch of toy drones that I just bought just for fun, play around for me and Nathan to have a good time together. And so I have a Unique Breeze. I have a couple of JJRC toys type, GPS drones. I have a bunch of little micro drones. I have then the 4 Para Bebop ones. I have 4 of those. I have 2 Bebop 2s, and I have the Para Anafi at this point. And that's about it. That makes about 14 drones that I do own. But again, only like the top 3 are the ones worth using for aerial videography and photography. And for those of you who have not seen this, this is done with the Anafi. And I don't know how sharp this is going to show up, but believe me, you can count the bricks on each one of those homes, even the furthest one. You can count each individual brick. It shoots 21 megapixel raw files as well. Yeah, until somebody just says, hey, happy birthday, Jose, here's a DJI Mavic Pro. Oh, thank you. I don't think I'm going to buy one because it's just too much money. I mean, for the price that I just paid for a new Bebop 1, brand new in box. Yes, it is old, but brand new in box for like $79. You know how many I could buy? Okay, for the price of a brand new Mavic Pro 2 or Zoom or Air. Yeah. So again, and for the stuff that I do, really, I need something that is going to allow me to take off from anywhere I want, not restrict me by some kind of a, hey, you can't fly here. You let me make that dumb decision myself. And also, you will never really properly learn to fly if you're constantly being helped by obstacle avoidance. And that's something that I know you can turn that off. I know that. But it's just something that really does not make a pilot a good pilot. Okay. I saw a funny t-shirt. The reason I'm a good pilot is because I crash a lot. Okay, well, I don't agree with that to that extent, but I think I've only had 2 mishaps, and I probably had about 100 flights so far. All of them have been successful. The mishaps were, okay, I ran into a bush because I went forward instead of backwards. Loss of orientation. And that's the things that you need to learn. But anyway, enough about that. We'll get to that at the very end half hour because I don't want to lose my photo printing guys and gals due to, drone talk. Okay. Heartbeat Production says, buy one, Jose, so you can teach me. Sure. Not going to happen. I can teach you with some other brand at this point, but no, I'm thinking I want to know what's going to happen to the situation. And I think the Skydio is going to really, really put DJI, at least here in the United States, into a very awkward position because for the price, there is nothing that they offer you that can do even half of what the Skydio can do. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get one just because it does what it does. I'm going to let other people be the guinea pig. Right now, it's selling out. So let them do the reviews. If I see that it's something worthwhile adding, I will go ahead and add it probably late next year. It will not be that soon. So, okay, enough about that. Oh. George Weezy says, thank you so much for your input. Robert Lively, back to the car analogy. Every 3,000 miles, you need to change your oil. What would happen if you did not change the oil? Well, I don't know, but let me tell you. When I was military and I was with a special forces unit, and we had a big motor pool with 2.5 and 3/4 tons and Jeeps and everything. You know what those mechanics had to do? Even though those vehicles sat there, they hardly ever got driven. Yeah, unless we were going out to the field for operations. They would change the oil, regardless of whether they drove them or not. Yeah, they restarted them every day. I don't know what would it do. Does oil change by just sitting there? I don't know. I really don't know. But you know, the 3,000 miles or 3 months, whichever comes first, you've heard of that. And I think that's a kind of a ripoff, but you know, that's the way it is. I don't know what would happen. Okay. Heartbeat says he is from Humboldt, Saskatchewan, Canada. Chris Richmond, hi there, watching the Southern Southampton, UK part-time artist using Pixma printers. Oh, you've been a big help. I'm having trouble seeing close. By the way, my glasses need to be replaced. Cal Johnson, super chat, $6.06. That's interesting. Thank you so much, Cal. Appreciate that. I want to connect with DSIR to tell a DSLR, I think is what you mean. I think is, yeah, DSLR says my eyes. To telescope, but don't know how. I've taken moon and solar pictures with just DSLR alone, but telescope would enhance a lot. Well, that's a tough one, okay? The telescope without the eyepiece may be able to be connected to the camera. I'm not sure. That is something beyond me at this point. I really don't know the answer to that. I know that some people have actually, you know, brought that lens right to the eyepiece and have been able to do that. But I know there's a better way to achieve that. You may just have to Google and find out what people are doing out there about that. I really don't know how you can get away with that. How could you do that? Some cameras are just attached to the telescope, bypassing the eyepiece, because really the eyepiece serves one purpose, that to make the image upright and able to be detected by your eye lens. And I don't know how you would do that with a DSLR or any other type of camera. I think it's a direct connection to the telescope without the eyepiece. I would have to look that up. But I thank you again for the contribution to the channel. Appreciate that tremendously. Derek Otway, hello, watching from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. Anthony Petit says, could the expiration date refer to the biocide in some inks? Yeah, but I mean, you know, that usually applies to dye-based ink. I don't know whether pigment inks succumb to that. I don't know. I really don't know why, you know, one brand, Epson, would have expiration dates and the other one would not. Any of my Epsons that I use, Epson cartridges that I use on my P30, my Pro 3880 and 3800, they all have expiration dates on them. They all do. So I really don't know that what could possibly, you know, prompt them from not printing it on the actual cartridge itself. Red Solaris 1. Anyway, to avoid the slight bend, I get printing on 240 gram GMS photo paper on the Canon TR8500. I have no idea what that is. Even with the border, use a heavier paper, maybe use a pigment printer. I don't know what it is that you're asking. Is that, what kind of printer is that? Let me see. Let me look that up. And we can, if it's a, it said it's desktop printer with a drawer for feeding the paper, or what? Let's see what we got here on Google. Yeah, that's what it is. So sure, that printer really is not designed for that type of paper. Okay, this is really a document type paper, document type printer. As far as I can see, it uses just 4 colors. So it's not really meant for photos. although you could print photos, but I think it's one of these feeders that has a U-turn. In other words, drawer on the front, paper is laid down. That paper needs to make that ridiculous bend to be able to then be fed under the plate, and the printhead can print on top of it. It's extremely difficult to use photo type papers on those types of printers. So they're not really recommended for that. Use a heavier paper? No, maybe not. I mean, it would be even more difficult. You need something that feeds from the top. Okay. And I don't know, does this one feed from the top? Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. The 8520, yeah, it does seem to have a top feeder. So maybe I'm wrong. Let's take a look. Let me show you guys what I am looking at. So if that shows me a top feeder, and this shows me the printer closed down, but I don't know whether it has I guess I'm wrong. Okay. Forget what I said. Okay. If it has a top feeder, then yeah, you could probably print, but I don't see what you're referring to about a bend, okay, on the paper. You should not have to even bend it. Or maybe you're saying that the printer is causing a bend. Heartbeat says, if you look at my videos, I did a few videos where I work. I'm still learning, but sure love it. I will go ahead and take a look at that. Let me copy you, and I will go to my YouTube link, and I'll just go ahead and queue you up. We're not going to do it here while we're here, but nevertheless, here you go. Wait a minute. All I'm getting is Kevin Hart. That can't be it. Heartbeat Productions. Is that it? Is that what you're asking me to look at? Anyway, we'll go on. We'll continue on. Charles Verbruggen says, Jose, it is interesting to do Lightroom editing in TIFF rather than RAW because TIFF files are not compressed. Yeah, but the problem is that they have been modified already. The theory being that the RAW file contains so much more data. Okay? Think of it as the complete apple, or an apple with some of the surface being bitten off. You look at it and you still say, okay, that's an apple, but it just doesn't have the complete level of information that the raw file had. I don't see in order to have a TIFF file, what would you have to do to create a TIFF version of your original raw file from your camera? You would have to convert it. The conversion process alone, even though it's supposed to be non-lossy, I don't believe it saves all of the information available in the raw file. I can take a raw file that has blown highlights and maybe, the warning on my shadow side popping up, and I can actually bring those in to the point where now I have detail on my highlights when it was pure white, in fact, beyond white. And if I convert that to a TIFF without any kind of adjustment before I fix it, I would not be able to bring in the highlights so that I have detail. I would not be able to open up the shadows until I have detail. It would be gone. Okay, not as bad as JPEG, but it would be gone. I don't believe you can do that. So for me, I always edit in RAW. I see no advantage other than negative loss of image detail, image data, if you will. Some people say there is no difference, and okay, fine. Whatever you agree works best for you. I had a guy online that's very well-known dude, and he says that JPEG is really not that much worse than RAW, than working just in RAW. Well, okay, whatever. I tend to disagree, but again, you cannot argue with success. If you have success working with a good, well-created JPEG file from an original RAW file, that's fine. Whatever works. I just don't agree with it. So I will stick to my method. And at the end of the day, boy, I got a ton of detail that would normally be gone. Think of it as histogram this wide. Let me get within my view range here. This histogram is this wide. This is black. This is white. Except my image contains this much information. You see? So I am able to reduce it, bring it inside that histogram so that I can then print it and be able to detect every bit of detail. If I don't do that, if I just leave it as is and it's beyond my histogram and I save it as, I will lose the two chunks, the highlight side that was beyond and the shadow side that was beyond. It's gone. It's gone forever. So why would you want to do that? Well, some people say to save file size. Well, just get a bigger hard drive. That's all I can say. It's not that expensive this day and age. Okie dokie. Haha. I love this. I love this. Somebody explained that very simply here, so even a dummy like me can understand. We'll get to that in a second. Let's see. Robert Lively says oil change was on the Canon printers. Oil change was on the Canon printers. Okay. Michael McLean. Hello, Jose and all. About ready to pull the trigger on a Pro 100 rebate still available. First snow here today in Fairbanks for all of you hot area people. Yeah. I landed in Fairbanks coming back from Korea in 1973, I believe. And yeah, I was there actually in the summer, what would be our summer. And I just remember it being quite beautiful. Man, the view that I got landing into Fairbanks was ridiculous. Someday, before I go meet my maker, I want to take an Alaskan cruise. Anyway, yeah, it's getting cool down here as well, my friend. It's not as hot as it used to be. Heartbeat says, look up New Holland CR10.90. That should bring you to my videos. Okay, we'll give that one more try. Because I wanna be able to see what it is that you are producing or into. Always like to explore other people's videos. Okay. Looks like a lot of farming type videos. Is that what we're talking about? I'll leave that open for me to look at later. Excellent. Take a peek at that. So you did some aerial type shots, I assume? Very nice. I would love to do that as well. I have to leave. He says Heartbeat has to leave. So thank you, sir. And I'm glad you popped in and got to know us. I'll go ahead and take a look at your site, your page after the show. Thank you. Bye-bye. Robert Lively Tiff is using 16 crayons while Raw is using 36. There you go. That's one way to put it. That makes sense. Mike B. Drone Ranger says, Jose, you can click on the three dots to the right of the person's screen name and then select go to channel directly. Oh, there you go. Let me see. How about that? Thank you so much, Mike. I tell you, this is great. See how nice it is to have you guys here hanging with me, teaching me things as well. JPEG is using 8 crayons, maybe even less. I don't know. Mike B says, thanks for stopping by Heartbeat Productions. Sure, no problem. Son. ISON, is it possible for paper type to cause certain pigments to fade, or can they only be the inks? Oh boy. Let's see, you got about 6 hours? Yeah, you don't want to get me started on that. That's again a subject for a video, but to put it as quickly as I possibly can, which is kind of impossible for me. Yeah, paper is probably the next most important factor for longevity. Okay, all I can say that. So yes, it is very critical to use good paper. If you go to Ardenberg, AARDENBURG, Berg, yeah, Berg, Ardenberg with 2 A's.com, or I think imaging. Just Google it, Ardenberg with two A's. These people test papers in ink and printer combinations, mostly OEM. Okay, so they will show you very clearly that paper has a great deal to do with longevity. I recently read one of their reports, and it had to do with the Pro 1000 from Canon. Top of the line printer, top of the line ink set. Okay, really, there's nothing better than that as far as the Canon side goes. So 3 different papers, and then they were exposed to light. It had nothing to do with ozone or any kind of the oxidants that live in our atmosphere, which can also affect longevity greatly in some cases. So Pro Luster, I forget what the second paper was, but the last paper, the third paper, was Red River Palo Duro Soft Gloss Rag. So the Pro Luster is resin coated, very plasticky, and it has optical brightening agents, which is, I believe, I forget what the actual chemical is, but that paper began to fade after 13 or 14 megalux exposure to light. And megalux is a million, I think it's a million lux, or maybe 1,000 lux. Anyway, regardless, a very large amount of light, okay? And it began to fade. Whereas the Red River paper, it did not begin to fade until 70 something megalux. That's a huge difference, isn't it? Same printer, same inks. Okay? Does that open your eyeballs? Yes, I think it opened my eyeballs. I was like flabbergasted. I said, wow, holy cow. Yeah. So paper is a huge factor. But again, like I said, I could talk for 6 hours on that subject alone. And I don't think my throat could take it, so we're not going to take that chance. But yeah, paper is everything. What made that Red River last longer? No OBAs, no optical brightening agents, and it wasn't resin coated. It was a really good acid-free, 100% rag, super good quality paper, period. Okie doke. Let's see what else we got here. Yasmani Lasso. Hi, I have 2 Pixma Pro 10s, and one of them thinks the manual train in the back is open position. In Canon, only suggestion is replacement. There is nothing else wrong with the fully functional printer. That's weird. It's the sensor. Somewhere internally, that sensor that senses that back feeder is open is just telling the printer. Now, just so you know, right now, my Pro 10 has that back tray open. It doesn't do anything to my ability to be able to print with the top tray. So something else might be a little bit more serious. Having it open has nothing to do with the printer being locked to just printing with the back tray. You choose that in the driver. You choose that either the top or rear feeder, as they call it. and the manual feeder, you do that in the driver. You don't do that because you physically open it. As far as I know. In fact, like I said, mine is open right this minute. It doesn't stop me from printing. Pro 10 right here, that's my default printer at this point. And you see that rear tray? So if I am printing on regular plain paper, which is what I'm doing now, if I pick photo, then I can choose between manual feed and rear tray. If I am on just plain paper, then I don't have access to that rear tray. So it doesn't really care. So I don't know what might be going on. Maybe something a lot more serious is going on. I don't know. But having the tray accessible will do nothing to your ability to continue printing. In fact, it should allow you to choose from manual to the so-called top tray, or the rear tray as they want to call it now, which is confusing as can be. ISON. Did you Google the issue? What issue? Oh, to Yasmani. Okay, yeah, that's what I would suggest you do again, but you may not find too much. Okay, that's. Are you Lasso? Are you here in the USA, or are you in a foreign country? Meaning outside of the USA, because that may be a problem for you. Here, I mean, you could find a local service center and just drive 30, 40 miles, however long you have to drive. That's how long I would have to drive to get to a Canon service center. And they will be able to then examine your printer and tell you what might be going on. Charles Verbruggen says, have you already edited, Jose, in QImage Ultimate RAW files? According to Mike, this works very well. Yes, I have. It's not what I would want to do all the time. Now, if I had no other program to use, then yeah. But I use Lightroom religiously. So, yeah, you could do many things in QImage to edit your RAW files directly. In fact, QImage contains just about every DSLR and lens combination profile. Okay, and what is that? What does that mean? A camera profile? What the heck is that? Camera profile, lens profile? I only know about paper profiles, right? No, a camera profile will apply a correction to the image that comes out of your card that was recorded from your sensor, that was activated by the light falling from the lens, except the sensor produces errors. There is no such thing as a perfect sensor. Okay, and your lenses produce some sort of curvature at whatever zoom setting you have it in, unless you've got a prime lens, single focal length lens. You may end up with some pincushion, that's this way, or barrel distortion, depending on what range the lens was set at in the zoom range, what focal length it was set at. So when you open up your files from a Canon blah 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 camera, or a Nikon blah 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 camera, as soon as you open them up and they're displayed, the folder is open, now you have a bunch of little thumbnails. Watch and see what happens. They start to sort of change a little bit. That's the profile for that particular camera and lens being applied. So errors in color reproduction from your sensor on that camera are corrected for. You can do that manually by using one of these bad boys right here. Why am I not seeing me? Because I'm a big dummy. Okay? Big dummy. Sorry, I've been yapping and not having the correct scene set up. So we were talking about, of course, camera profiles and lens profiles. They're created with one of these items right here. And what it does, it just takes into consideration errors from the sensor and errors from the lens as well as distortion problems. Okay. And vignetting and all of that stuff. Lenses are not perfect, so they introduce all sorts of little artifacts, if you will, that the profile for that camera and lens eliminates, or at least reduces, to the point where all of your images that you open taken by my Nikon D3300 and my kit lens, that, whatever it was, 20 something to 55, it will fix everything that was introduced by the sensor and the lens. It fixes it as I open them up in QImage, because QImage has a profile for my D3300 in my lens. It comes with that. So many of the updates that you will get throughout the year may be just simply additional profiles added. So, yeah, do I perform edits on it? Not necessarily. I might export from Lightroom to QImage, okay, and then apply the deep focus sharpening before I print. Yeah, that's awesome. Sure, I will do that instead of printing out of Lightroom. Okay, but as far as editing, no, I don't do a bulk of my editing in QImage, only because I'm so used to doing it in Lightroom. I apologize for having jumped into the actual screen view. I don't know why I did that. No idea. Like I said, I need someone here to kind of be like a director for me. Anyway, enough of that. I'm only human. So, have you seen any updates to the chip reset problems that you outlined a while ago on your videos for Pro 1000? No, no updates at all. It's a done deal. It's a lost cause. The only thing that worked with the Pro 1000, two things work. Okay, two things work quite well. That is single-use chips. Okay, those work, no problem. Remember, your auto reset chips, as they were called initially, they worked the first time. They only act as single-use chips. I have yet to reach the point where I need to even test that, but they only work once, and then they don't reset, and then you have to kind of accept whatever level they are shown back to you. It's really a mess. So single-use chips, let's not get into that. Yeah. Single-use chips are the only ones that work. They're about $11, $12 each. Simple. Or turn off your ink monitoring. And when you get to the point where a cartridge is empty, you have the option to continue to print. On your LCD, you should have some instructions there as to what you do if you're really brave. They don't want you to do that, but they give you the option to continue printing. What you need to do at that point is to fill that cartridge up. Make sure that it is always kept topped off, okay? And you will no longer have any ink indication at all. Dangerous, right? So you either have to weigh your cartridge or systematically every month or so top them off so that they weigh the actual full factory weight. Pain in the you know what, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, single-use chips is the best way to go. Cost you about $12 each chip. They work flawlessly. Empty the cartridge. When the chip goes empty, your cartridge is empty. You fill it back up to full. That will take about 80 to 82 milliliters of ink. And then you just insert that new chip into the little floating compartment up front, and boom, you're done. Put the white clip back on it, insert it into your printer, and it will be recognized as a brand new full cartridge yet again. All right, so that's the only way that we can continue to use the Pro 1000 and maintain, the normal ink level indicators that we, grown accustomed to using. I just wish it had worked, but it's not working. And his loss, about 10 grand. Okay. And I'm sure that he already, compensated the previous people a certain amount of money, because you got one reset out of them. You got one use, in other words. So it's not like you weren't able to use it whatsoever. I know there were $25 each, but at least you got $12 worth. So I'm thinking possibly, I didn't discuss this with him. I'm thinking possibly he probably provided people with single-use chips to make up the difference. One would be enough. I think it's like $12.50, so that would be, two of them would be $25. So there you go. Yeah, but that's the only way. That's the only way to be able to continue printing and maintain ink monitoring in your Pro 1000. Ink Owl just says, hey, just fill up your OEM cartridges and disable ink monitoring. That's what they say. They know darn well that it doesn't work. So they're not even bothering to purchase single-use chips for selling to you folks. Computer Dude. Oh, Yasmani Lasso says, I'm in the USA. Okay. So you should be able to contact a local Canon service center. Just take the printer to them and see what they can do. See if they can figure out why it's not allowing you to print. Like I said, my printers do not demand anything unless I choose fine art media. Then they will demand that I use the manual feeder. Other than that, I can leave that manual feeder open and it doesn't care. It allows me to choose. As you saw right here, I showed you. That's why I was there. I remember now. So it shouldn't really make a difference unless there's something internally mechanically wrong with that particular Pro 10 of yours. Okay, the Computer Dude says, I have almost depleted my first set of ink and I'm looking for a refill, likely going with Ink Out Kit. Okay, computer. Okay, you're the Pro 1000 guys. Okay, so keep in mind that they're just going to ask you to disable ink monitoring. That's what they're going to do. They do not sell the inks. I mean, they do not sell the chips, the single-use chips, as far as I know. I could be wrong because I really haven't checked lately. But yeah, that's it. Either single-use chips or disabling the ink monitoring system. I saw your comparison video from some other printers, but I was wondering, have you tried inks for the Pro 1000? No, because I'm using OEM for my Pro 1000 right now. So, I have not. The Pro 1000 inks from Precision Colors, they incorporate OEM red, OEM yellow, OEM blue, OEM chroma optimizer. And if you want to, OEM black. In fact, you can buy all OEM loads for $32 each. Okay, one refill, $32, one chip, $12. That's cheaper than $60 still. But you're working with full OEM at this point because you're reusing the same cartridge. So you save what you would have to pay for the manufacturing of one cartridge, What I suspect is going to happen when you use Ink Owl, your gloss is not going to be as good because every single chroma optimizer third party doesn't even come close to OEM chroma optimizer. Does not. So you may be dissatisfied with that. The same thing with the black ink is just might end up costing a little bit of bronzing. Okay, bronzing is a weird effect that you get when you take a print and you hold it to the light and you kind of glance at it at an angle. Dark areas will look like they're kind of like bronze. It would look like copper. Okay, almost instead of looking black and shiny, it would look like it's got a little like copper sheen to it. They call it bronzing. And it's just an effect of the microsurface of the ink and the fact that the chroma optimizer just simply doesn't do the job like OEM chroma optimizer does. So I invested like $225 per 750 ml cartridges. I have 12 of those and I extract ink from those. I'll be able to print for a very, very, very long time and maintain my level of quality. Should I have stuck with signature edition from Precision Colors? Sure. But why not go to full OEM? Now I have longevity, I have top quality, and I'm printing at a much lesser cost, actually. Think about it. The 750 ml cartridges, I have a link on my description, by the way. All my descriptions have that link. $225 for 750. Divide that by 80. You get about 8 point something refills per cart. It comes out a lot less than $60, okay, per cartridge if you were to go full OEM. That's just my thinking. Was Signature Edition, I keep saying secondary, Signature Edition good enough? Oh yeah, it was. It was more than good. Remember, 3 colors were OEM already, so, you know. Why? Because they just did not come up to the quality of OEM, regardless of what blending was done at the lab. Ink Owl is straight out of the lab. No blending, okay? No fine matching like Precision Colors does, okay? You kind of have to have an inside connection with the labs that create inks for, say, image specialists, okay? Which is really what Ink Owl sells. So Mike from Precision Colors did have that internal connection, and they made special batches just for him. There, the cat's out of the bag. Okay, enough of that. So let's continue on. Then we'll go ahead and it's now been about 2 hours. So boy, I'm not even getting to the subjects that I chose for tonight. That's fine, as long as I'm being able to help you guys and questions that you guys have. This is your opportunity right here. So let's see. Robert Lively says, are you speaking of the vivid, landscape, etc. as a profile for the camera? If so, that is only applied to JPEGs, not to RAW files. No, I'm not talking about that at all. When you on Lightroom, when you open up an image, you're really converting it to a viewable format. The vivid, landscape, and all of that can be applied. I tell you. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. Lightroom. I have Lightroom Classic right now, and so let's go ahead and open that up and see what we can do. Maybe it'll open up, maybe it won't. I got too many things running at this point here. Here we go. We got it. So let me find. Oh, you know what? I don't think I have my photos hard drive connected. Okay, that's not gonna work. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to connect my hard drive. So give me a second. I really want to show you guys this. Hang in there. Don't go away. Okay. I was working on a couple of video projects, so I had 2 drives switched. I got a bunch of external compartments here for drives. So once this pops up, I hope it pops up soon. Let's see. Yep, it's on. I always do that because here's the thing. When I create a camera profile for the so-called passport card from X-Rite, that profile is applied to your RAW files that you load up from your camera. Indeed, it does that. So there's always going to be that huge advantage. It's not loading up right now. Here we go. Let's see. No. Okay. So I don't hear the little noise coming from my hard drive. What are you doing to me? Oh, something always happens. Oh, I know what it is. Big dummy. Okay, let's plug this in. Now it should come up, and we should be able to see what I'm showing you guys. This is really important because the whole idea of this is for you to be able to get the best possible rendition from your raw file. So when you're viewing a raw file, either through the raw converter in Photoshop, or just directly into Lightroom, or directly into QImage, it will apply that camera profile. And it might be one that you created yourself, or one that already exists within the program. So let's try this again. I'm going to load up. I'm just going to import some raw files from my drive that should be now identified, hopefully. Again, it's always a touchy subject when I'm trying to load something while I am transmitting at the same time. It's just too labor intensive. Here we go. Photos and photos. And let's see. Come on, baby. Do it. Okay, here we go. So let's see. Okay, these are JPEGs and NEFs at the same time. So let's go ahead and load some raw files. So we're going to go ahead and cancel these. We'll just uncheck all of them, and then we'll just check a couple of these here. That one, and let's see which one else. This one, and how about this one? This has a lot of nice color. And here's Mickey right here. So these are NEFs, which is the file format that Nikon uses. Here, we'll do this one as well. All right. Okay, here we go. So we'll go ahead and import those, and we'll put them on the Develop tab. And here is Mickey at the All-Star Resort. Now, we scroll all the way down here. Let's see, where are they? They changed this since the last version, so I need to find it. Calibration. Let's see. Like I said, they moved this around. And it's not something that I always use. Let me close everything down, and then we'll start from the top and work our way. So let's see, lens corrections, effects, calibration. It should be here in the calibration. No. See that? I haven't played with this for such a long time that now I cannot find it. Always happens when you try to do a live stream, right? Yeah. No. It used to be here. It was part of the camera. And just because it's a JPEG doesn't mean that it should not all of a sudden be, because I specifically used to correct all of my images. I did it globally. Let's look through everything here to make sure we don't miss anything. And then if we're totally embarrassed, we'll go ahead and quit and not even bother. And then all of a sudden I'll find it. That's the application for profile correction for a camera and lens, but it's not what I was looking for. That is not what I was looking for. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Maybe I am. As shot. Here we go. There you go. See, I was looking at the wrong place. So here you go. Daylight. So it applies that daylight sort of global fluorescent light. Oh, that's horrible, right? And here, see, if I had made a profile for my camera and I had created it using the software that the X-Rite color checker passport card comes with, then it would appear here. It would appear as my Nikon D3300 and then my lens, and then I can apply that. I can apply that to it, and it would, it would be specific to what condition you shot it as. So this is as shot. So no correction was applied. If I apply auto, it's going to choose that one correction that it available right here. See, auto. So when you create one of those profiles, it would show up here, okay, as your own profile, and it would only be for that particular day that you shot. Yeah, so you know it is inconvenient. It's not going to be able to give you a global profile that you can use forever and ever. You know, the sun changes direction throughout the year, so forth, and you know, light temperature might change slightly. So these profiles that you make for your camera lens combination are also tied to your shooting conditions. But anyway, they appear here, and they would appear in the same place in the raw converter within Photoshop, and then you would have to export it out, okay, as either a TIFF or a PSD file, and it will then retain whatever profile you apply to it. So these are all sort of profiles that you apply, okay? So for instance, if you shoot under fluorescent lighting and you do not use auto white balance in your camera, then you can apply this and it should fix it. If you shoot under tungsten lighting and you did not apply auto white balance, and same thing in shade, cloudy, whatever. So how about daylight? And I assume that that means also sunny. So it did warm things up a little bit. As you can see, I got my black and my white warning on, and nothing is showing up as falling over the cliff. So that's a pretty good correction right there. Very nice little correction right there. So say I want to export this out and print it in QImage. So you would go to File and then plug in and Extras, QImage Ultimate. So it will take this, now edit it, assuming I just spent hours editing this, and it will send it right over to QImage. Boom, there it is. And I would just load it, okay, and print it. Simple as that. So I actually sent my edited image, and of course, as you saw, it was fitted to a specific cell size that I created earlier in another job. And that's it. Well, you know, what does that do for you? It just, you know, it just fixes anything that the sensor introduces that may not be accurate. It tries to fix it because you're using this as your standard. So while you are out there shooting, you put this in front of your subject, you take a shot of that, then you create a profile from the results of that image. The software will take every single one of those little, I'm not going to open it now, but you see, it looks just like that. It will take and scan each one of those little squares and will say, hey, your sensor did not reproduce this color correctly. This is what you need to do to fix it, to sway it back to the correct rendition. And it will do that with every one of those squares. And again, it's fabulous. You take that profile, you load it into your Lightroom. It will load automatically to Lightroom anyway, once you create it. And then you apply it, and it will just fix those colors for you globally. And if you shot a whole series of images, you can select all of them and then hit synchronization, and it will then apply that correction to all your images like that. So it's really neat. It's really neat. Well, we've lost a lot of people. We had 41. We're down to 28. Yeah, that's what happens. Anyway, so again, lots of things that you can do before you even begin to edit to make sure that the images that you are editing in your calibrated monitor are as good as they can possibly be from the get-go. And then you apply your edits. That image that I just showed you, I would apply hardly any editing to it because it turned out to be that great. Okay, it was really good. It was within the histogram range of black to white. Nothing was clipped on the white side. Nothing was clipped on the so-called black side. And the color balance looked perfect to me. So nothing to do but export it over to QImage because I love printing in QImage. So, and hitting the print button. And if I had my printer set correctly, again, that print coming out of the printer would reflect exactly what I see in my monitor. Not to magenta, not to cyan, not to this, not to that. Yeah, that's the goal, right? To have everything come out the way you see it in your monitor. Obviously, the monitor is going to be brighter. It's going to be, more brilliant because it's backlit. And prints are dull by comparison because we view them via reflective light. So you need to get past that. That's something. That's a wall that a lot of people cannot get past through because they just don't understand the difference between what it looks like on paper and what it looks like on a backlit monitor. Is there a list? Oh, wait a second. Art of Women Photography is here, and he says, "Hi, Jose. Did you see Canon have updated the Pro 1000 firmware's updated, and now allows you to print 47-inch long prints." Thank you. I was waiting for someone to tell me what in the heck does it do. But you know what? I don't want to update my firmware. I have no clue what that will do. Someone else is going to have to be a guinea pig. I can't lose my Pro 1000, okay, to that. So if someone wants to try that out there, I'm going to ask Mike, see if he wants to try it. Yeah. The ability to print 47 inches is awesome. You can then grab paper from a roll and feed it to the back, and you should be able to get nice long panoramas out of it. That would be fantastic if it would allow you to continue to print with, of course, third-party inks, which is what I'm doing right now. Not third-party inks per se. I'm using OEM loaded on my cartridges with third-party chips, is what I should say. If it allows you to do that, oh man, fantastic. I would upgrade like that. Michael McLean says, basic panel. I don't know what you mean by that. Did you ask something before that? I don't know. Please clarify what that means, Michael. Anthony Petit says, is there a list of applications that QImage takes images from? Right now, Photoshop and Lightroom. That's it. And Photoshop Elements. That's the only way to, because when you load the new, okay, if you were to purchase QImage for the first time ever, I think back in the day, they charge you a little extra for that export plugin. I think, I'm not sure, it's included now in the price. So your ability to export from Photoshop or from Lightroom, it might be included in your full-blown, QImage application that you download and install. So that's wonderful because then you don't have to no longer print through Photoshop. You can use QImage only for printing, which is really originally what it was intended for. So yeah, I love that idea, but so far it only works with Adobe products. So Anthony, it's just 3 applications, I believe. Elements, Photoshop, and Lightroom. Robert Lively says, any FS sets. What is that? Michael McLean says, profiles in basic panel. George Gab, hello from West Texas. Well, we got about less than an hour to go, buddy. So hope you can catch up in what we've been discussing. Michael McLean, the very top basic panel has the profile selections. The Adobe profiles are added once. What are we referring to? Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, we're calling those profiles. Yes. Stephen Polvoy. All right. Glad to have you. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. George Gab, if I export the picture as a TIFF, QImage should be imported? Sure, but why would you want to export an image as a TIFF when you can just work directly from Lightroom? You don't have to export anything. Just export it. It will go over to you to QImage as a raw file. It's only a temporary thing. It's just kind of floating in space until you do something with it, print it, whatever you want to do. Once you close your image, it's gone. Because it was kind of virtual, all right? So it wasn't really there forever. Okay. Do you have any experience with Marut pigment inks from UK? No, I do not. I asked Marut USA to send me some samples. Never heard from them. So that's as far as that went. So what can I say? All right. Let me go ahead and, since we got about 40 minutes, this is a subject just came up today. I added it to my list of videos that I'm going to be making this week. But I'll go ahead and touch on it a little bit. Just so you guys know. I already did the addendum to the cleaning cycle video. I did the reviving an old large format printer. Well, let's talk about that, okay? I got so many other subjects. Should you buy a used printer? I'm going to get into the pros and cons of that. Can the perfect ink be created? We talked about that last week. What do you mean perfect ink, right? Printing artifacts, bad color, lines, banding. What should I do first if I experience any of these problems? Why the Pro 1000 should just be allowed to do what it does. In other words, this is going to come across badly. I know. Quit complaining. Let that Pro 1000 do what it's doing. And at the end of the day, you'll be happy because you will get amazing prints every single time. Unless you do something wrong with the driver settings and whatever, or your monitor is not calibrated. On the printer side of things, just let the printer do what it does. You'll always end up with perfect results. Interfere with it, and yeah, then you're going to pay even more at the end. So let's talk about reviving a large format pigment ink printer. It's not just about cleaning the nozzles. That was already done in a video. But I'll tell you why I brought that up, because somebody told me I just got I think it was a 7800. That is a huge printer, about wider than you can see. Let me step back. Yeah, like this wide. For like $200. With a nearly full set of cartridges. You can't pass that up, right? So he picked it up, played around for a long time, and got those nozzles to print 100%. But every single print had a color cast, no matter what he did. Then he says, oh, my Pro 100 right next to it produces perfect results from that standard image. So he was doing everything as I recommend. He was going to certify the printer, print that standard image. In the driver control color, because he's using OEM inks. Pro 100 creates a perfect result. My 7800 cannot. Everything is magenta. So here's why that happens. This will happen 99% of the time. Especially on a printer that, like this one, sat for like, I think it was like 1 year, maybe 2, I don't know. Ink settles, especially pigment inks. I don't care if it's microencapsulated ink. It will settle. And as it settles, what happens when you pack more pigment into a given amount of space? More magenta pigment packed into a given amount of space means that ink density having to do with magenta might be 2x. So of course the printer doesn't know that. The print engine, that is the magic that mixes colors together to reproduce all of the values that are sent to it. It doesn't know that that magenta ink is twice as strong. You see what I'm saying? So here's the thing. Long story short, in a nutshell, which is unusual for me, here comes the answer. You need to get an adjustment program, You need to buy a set of brand new inks, fresh ones, or if you're refilling, new set of refillable cartridges filled with good ink, like from John Cone or Precision Colors, and flush that system out. Do an ink, what do they call that? Ink recharge. And you can do that. You can access that. Some printers actually have that on the LCD available for you. But if they do not, then you need an adjustment program that will then allow you to access that function and perform an ink refill. Basically, you're refilling the system as if it was empty. That will flush out all that concentrated viscous ink out of the system. Yeah, you're going to probably use up a couple of maintenance cartridges. And that will get you to the point where now you have the whole system, the internal circulatory system of the printer, loaded with the correct level of density, which only comes from fresh inks. Okay? The reason you didn't see that on the Pro 100, the Pro 100 never sat for 2 years. And the Pro 100, even if it did sit for 3 years, and even if it did print through all the nozzles, 100%, it's dye. And dye doesn't settle. Okay? Pigment does. Pigment is particles. Okay? They don't dissolve. They're just microscopic particles. The only reason you see color is because there are trillions of those particles in a given ounce of ink. Okay? And so it will look yellow, magenta, cyan. But if you zoom in microscopically, you're going to eventually see clear fluid and little particles, little grains, like little grains of sand. Okay? If the printer was originally on OEM, it should be no problem to clear that out. But if the printer was originally loaded with a third-party source, then it very likely wasn't microencapsulated, okay? And it might take a bit of work to clear that out. Long story short, again, in a nutshell, I said that already. Quit saying that, Jose. You will require time and money to revive that printer, unless you're lucky. So even if the printer, like in this case, was firing on all nozzles, it's still, that ink was so thick and so strong that it immediately threw the color balance off. And so regardless of whether every nozzle was firing, you're going to have to push all that ink out. What a waste, huh? But you'll have to do that in order to get it back into the correct density. Okay, once you do that, it should print okay, as long as there's no mechanical problems with the printer down the road or at that very point. You see, remember also that rollers that transport that paper are made out of a rubber compound, and if it's a natural rubber compound, it may be cracking, dried up. If it's a synthetic type rubber, which more than likely is, it should be able to last a long time. But they may be dirty, they may be full of dust, and you may have some paper transport problems. So the whole job of reviving a printer that has been neglected for 1 to 2 years is not just getting the nozzles cleared out, as it happened here. The density was so strong that it was, the color balance was so off that there was no way you can profile that out by creating a custom profile. No way. It was not going to help in the least. So anyway, yeah, the deal is too good to pass up. Think hard, because you may have to spend a ton of money to get that printer working condition again. Okay? And you end up with still a very old printer. Okay. So I know it's fun to be able to, succeed at reviving a printer such as that, but it just makes really no sense monetarily to do that. Okay? Unless you live in a country where printers are so inaccessible that getting something even that old would be fantastic for you. That would be the only time that you would want to consider doing that. I'm going to do a video about what to look for in buying used printers. And I bought many printers that I currently have used. And so, in one hand, it makes no sense. This guy has been used till it's all worn out, and it may not last, another 100 prints. On the other hand, the guy received it. He never set it up. I've had instances where the wife sold their husband's printer because he passed away. And I almost felt guilty for buying something like that from this, poor widow. And it's happened to three different persons. The same thing. I bought the Pro 1000 that way. I bought my Pro 1 that way as well, and my P800. Yeah, I bought it. I bought them all that way, and the price was unbelievable. But they were brand new printers. So how can I argue with that? Now, what if that printer had been used for 10 years? Yeah, it's in its last legs. No, forget it. Don't even think about doing that. Just go ahead and look for something new. Okay, that might be the best answer. All right. Oh boy. Okay, we got about half an hour. So what do we want to talk about, guys? You guys tell me. Lead me for the next half hour. I'm going to show you one video, and that's it. That's all I'm going to show you about drone flying and the results that I got by simply applying an interesting little setting that is available for the Anafi, and I found out also available for the so-called Bebop units, the Bebop 2 and the Bebop 1. And this is found in the application that you use for flying through your controller. But again, we'll wait until the very end to show you because these are short videos and it will only take me, believe it or not, a few minutes to explain what it was that I was trying to achieve or test. Okay, Michael McLean says, realizing that all photos are different, which Canon paper do you prefer for the Pro 100? Well, the Pro 100 is meant for this. What do you see blocking the image from you? Reflections, right? This is ProLuster. This is ProLuster paper. So this is what it's meant for. Okay? ProLuster. This is what it's meant for. Glossy. Verita. Even if you want to print with really high-end papers, like the so-called Red River Palo Duro soft gloss rag, that's got a really, like the name, soft gloss. It has a Verita coating, sodium, what is it? Oh my, Verita, barium sulfate coating, which gives it kind of like an old-timey darkroom look. Okay, I think it's just the way that the surface has a slight pebbly look. Like if you took glossy F paper, remember the F paper that had to be ferrotyped, dried on a polished chrome surface by heat, and it would acquire a super glossy result. If you were to flip it upside down and dry it, it would give you that soft gloss look. And that's what that paper kind of achieves, that look. And so works fantastic with the Pro 100. It's a marriage made in heaven. Breathing color, river rock soft gloss also. Beautiful results with it. The paper should have some degree of sheen. Now, if you choose to begin to use matte papers on it, not such a good choice. Simply because photo black ink, dye ink, is not as dense. I'm losing it here. Photo black ink for dye-based printers is not really that dense. Go back and look at my video where I show you what a couple of drops of photo black looks like in a glass of water. It's deep purple, not black, not neutral either. So Pro 100, perfect for shiny papers with a sheen. If it's not matte, then it will print perfectly on the Pro 100. As to what paper to use for whatever image, that's all up to you. What I would do is buy a sample pack, either from Red River, Moab, Hahnemuhle, Ilford, whatever. They're all over they're available right now on my Amazon affiliate page. Okay, you go to any video description, you will find the Amazon link there for my site, and also on the main channel of the my YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. I'm going to walk you through that so you know where to go. And it's one really, really easy way to support the channel. There's nothing you have to do except just buy something through Amazon, which most people do anyway. Okay, so I will take you to my channel, and then I will go home. I'm already home. I will go and show you what it is that you are looking for. So let's go ahead and look at my full screen here. So here's my channel. This is what you would see if you were to land on my channel. PayPal, Facebook, Amazon. So here's where you go. Here's my product website and Patreon and Amazon. So you click on Amazon. Bingo, you're here. These are all of the items that I have listed. If you don't find something you like here, simply search. In fact, bookmark this link right here. It's identical to the regular Amazon link. Search for anything. Drones. And there's a bunch of drones. If you purchase any of these drones through this particular link, then I will get some credit. I will get a small percentage of the sale. And they pay me every month, in other words, assuming I make it past a certain threshold. So that's the quickest way to support the channel. And you're an Amazon shopper, just use that link and save it. Please save it, bookmark it. I ask nothing else of you, But if you're an Amazon shopper, so right there you should be able to search, for instance, for inkjet photo paper sample packs. Boom, a bunch of them show up. In fact, I have a bunch of them already listed on that huge page of items there. And pick one of those, order it, get it home, start looking at the surfaces, lay them out on your tabletop, and look for something that really kind of, makes you go, oh, I kind of like this look. But you don't know what it's going to do like on print. So take it over to your Pro 100, Pro 10, Epson P800, P600, whatever you happen to have, and print. Now, if you have a pigment printer, you should be able to print on either matte and glossy, shiny, whatever type surfaces. It's basically universal for all surfaces, whereas something that is strictly dye-based should only be used on, or does the best job, I should say, on glossy, luster, satin, and burrito coated papers. Okay? All right. Stephen Polvoy. So I print with Lightroom using a Mac, and QImage does not work on a Mac. Are there a number of features that QImage has? When I print from Lightroom, I would not have the features that QImage has. Well, first of all, you're wrong. QImage does work with Mac. QImage 1. Okay, not QImage Ultimate. QImage Ultimate is the full feature, probably more features than you would ever need. QImage 1. Okay, search for that. And you should be able to use QImage on your Mac. I'll leave it at that. Whatever it is that you're looking for, QImage 1. Let me look it up real quick here, and I'm going to post a link right now to it. So okie dokie. Here comes the link. It's written by some other person, okay? It's not Mike Chaney, but it's another person working in collaboration with Mike Chaney. It has basically the same user interface, but it works with Macintosh. So you should be able to download QImage 1 for Mac as well as QImage 1 for Windows. QImage 1 for Windows is a more streamlined software. It doesn't have all of the features of the full-blown Ultimate, but again, the full-blown Ultimate only works with Windows. So that's maybe where you got that idea. So go ahead and take a look at this. Hey, tell them I sent you. I don't know if you're going to get anything extra, but that's how you can work with a Mac using QImage. And I think the plugin works just as well from Photoshop or Lightroom, sending it directly to QImage 1. Pedro Sco. Hi, Jose. I've owned my Pro 10s for about 4 days. Pro 10s. And on borderless prints, I'm getting a line down one edge that doesn't seem as glossy. Yeah, that's normal. That is normal. It's probably only about 1 to 2 millimeters wide. Should I return it? No, it's normal. What you need to do is did you print edge to edge the image? Okay, you see what I'm saying? Did you print edge to edge? If you did not, then yeah, it's not going to print all the way edge to edge. So what you need to also do is choose for, instead of auto application of Chroma Optimizer, full. Okay, and that should help. But make sure that if you're not printing edge to edge, in other words, you load up an image, and when you preview it, it should show no white borders anywhere. Okay, and so Chroma Optimizer will be applied wherever there's image. So if the image extends beyond the edges, okay, as viewed on the preview, then you will have Chroma Optimizer, and you should have an overall glossy result. All right, Stodd37, STODD 37. Hi, Jose. I know from last week that you don't like the R1800, but I was able to save it, and I was wondering if its ultra chrome inks could do well on metallic paper. Probably. I believe that the 1800, does it have a gloss optimizer or not? If it doesn't, then maybe not. But if it does have that clear coat that the 1900 also has, you may be able to use it. I used to have an 1800 and I never even installed it. I sold it. So I really cannot say 100% what you could get, just try it, just try it. Pedro says, I did print edge to edge. Yes, it started happening after the third print. I don't know what to tell you. If it's printing edge to edge and you're using full application of Chroma Optimizer, see, Chroma Optimizer is applied wherever there's ink applied. Okay, you get me? So there should be no edge, 1 or 2 millimeters of edge with a Chroma Optimizer. If the image is printing edge to edge, so should the Chroma Optimizer. I would have to be there with you to see what's going on. I'm sure we're quite a distance apart from each other, so I really cannot say what is going on. Okay? I would suggest, if you would like to join my Facebook group, go ahead and join, and then you can maybe take a shot of the results and post it there and have us look at what you're doing and see what we can come up with for you. Okay, so Stodd says that yes, it does have gloss optimizer. So yeah, it should be fine. Metallic papers are kind of odd looking. So again, it should be able to work fine as long as you can reduce any kind of gloss differential problems with using gloss optimizer, which as you say, it does have it. So just go ahead and try it and see what you get. Yeah, the Facebook group is right on my main page. Okay, so or look at one of the videos and find the Facebook link that's listed in the descriptions. Yeah, make sure you guys read my descriptions, please, because right below them, that's where all of these links live. And all you got to do is pop a video open, look at the description, and you will be able to find links to all of the stuff I talk about. Alrighty. So now it's about 15 minutes. Let me go ahead and show you. I'm going to go ahead and close. I had a lot of stuff open here to discuss, but we got some good discussions going that, were not something that I planned. And I'm glad that you guys came up with all of these questions. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. I love it. So I didn't have to even come up with anything on my own. You guys kind of made the show happen tonight. So I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and look for what I just did. Now, let me give you a little background. Okay, so here's you just Pete's cow. Okay, approved. You're in. All right, that's it. You are done. You are in the Facebook group, and go ahead and prepare your shot of what it is you want us to look at. And that way we can get an idea. Also, give us, if you can come up with like every single setting you set up your driver with, the expansion amount of your image. We want to know how far beyond the edges. Okay, you set it for, because that is an adjustable setting in the driver as well, to make sure that there's no reason that the chroma optimizer should have not reached the edge. I mean, there should be no reason at all. All right, so let me give you a little background of what I did. So as you guys know, when you fly a drone that has either a mechanical gimbal stabilized image system or an electronically stabilized image system like the Parrot Bebop series does, then when you are flying around and going from left to right, your horizon stays level. It's not going to tilt. Like if you're on a fixed wing aircraft and you've got a camera mounted, the camera is following the tilts and the swings of that aircraft. So your horizon is going to be doing this, which gives it kind of a fluid motion. Maybe if it's not, too intense and makes you get sick as you're viewing it. So normally you get that steady, rock steady horizon. But there's a setting in the Anafi application that's Free Flight Pro 6 and linked with the controller, of course, where you can choose the cinematic mode, and they call it cinematic mode, which I thought was going to be something totally different, like maybe 24 frames per second, which is the Hollywood frames per second rate, instead of the more video 30 frames per second. So it wasn't that at all. I changed it to cinematic. I still have my 4K 30 frames per second setting. Great. So I went ahead and went out to Nathan's front yard, and I took the bird up, that's the Anafi from Parrot, and I began to fly around. And what I was noticing was this very fluid motion. And the horizon was tilting slightly as I flew and turned to the left, and then recovered and turned to the right, and so on. It gave it a really neat looking effect. Now, if you were to do that sideways, then it would not work so well, okay? But for your forward, point A to point B, and then maybe a slight turn to the left and a slight turn to the right, it would add that very fluid look to your video. And you got to get really good at this, at flying very fluidly, if you will, instead of jerky, okay? Jerky will not work when you do this. So let's quickly take a look at this. I'm going to cue it up, and I hope this comes through okay. I think I got some audio going here. I think I have some music. I'll turn that way down. Okay, so here we go. So this is the Anafi. Turn that way down. So we begin to, fly forward, and I went ahead and yaw to the left a little bit. And notice, did you notice my horizon is not straight anymore? You see that? See that? It's tilted. Normally on regular standard mode, that horizon would be rock steady, neutral. It would not have tilted. So that, and that's impossible. Planes have to tilt. Either when you're making a left turn, the wings, the right wing will go up, the left wing will drop. When you're making a right roll or yaw, the right wing will drop and the left wing will go up. That makes your horizon tilt. So to get that effect while flying a drone, you have to access that particular mode. This is 4K video, by the way, 100 megabit, so it may be a little bit jerky right now. And I don't know what it's going to look like when it's transmitted. You see that? See the way that recovery took place? See that? Right there again. And it's very subtle, but if you know what regular video looks like from a stabilized type system, you would never have that natural, flowing type, horizon tilt left and right slightly as you're flying. Because physically, it has to happen. I mean, the drone is physically tilting. I said it's moving from left to right. Centrifugal force alone causes the tilt. And so the gimbals try to neutralize that to almost unnatural result, because it should be tilting a little bit. You see that right there? There's the sun reflecting right off the lens. There I am right there. Now if you're just going straight ahead, doing a long straight path, it's not going to affect anything. You're not going to be able to see that. Only when you're turning. And as, of course, on an airplane, fixed wing aircraft, you're flying straight ahead. There's not going to be any kind of wing tilt. So you're not going to have a horizon tilt. It's only when you're turning. There you go. Did you see that slight swing? Horizon was this way, and all of a sudden it's this way. But very gradual. And what I got to begin to do is practice my stick movements so that I enter a yaw, enter a turning move a little bit more gradual. I want it to be butter smooth. And of course I have it on auto settings, so it's going to adjust for exposure changes as I get from a dark area. This is like, the sun is almost going down, so they so-called, they call it the golden hour, which is really great, but not when you have a lot of obstructions causing a lot of shadow areas. This is really great for, wide spans of scenery where you don't have a lot of vertical obstructions causing deep shadows, like here, like in this case. All right, so we'll get to the end here. I'm going to come down. I'm approaching the landing spot, which will be like right here, right next to my car. And there I am, so I'm going to bring it down. Look at how smooth this bird drops. For those of you who are trying to get me to buy a Mavic Pro, come on, guys. This whole kit, including controller, which you have to buy extra with a lot of DJI products, this was $550 and 2 batteries. The batteries alone are $100 each. Now I'm going to hover right here. I'm hovering about 2 feet off of the ground. I'm going to bring the gimbal up, which again, it is mechanical. And then we will fade out. There you go. So you see what I mean? It really inserts into your video that fluidity that you look for. So instead of being like this, because what you really get is just straight. And if you guys are interested, I just uploaded the other one not long ago. I'll give you a quickie look at that because we have 5 more minutes here. So I took out the Bebop 2 and I discovered that, yeah, there's a similar function to it in the actual application. Let me see if this was going to work here. Where is it at? Okay, here we go. So I'm going to get past my talking head. Oh, this is the same video. Dumb me. I got to go back. Here we go. No, that's just the wrong video. Sorry, folks. I don't know what I did with that one. Let me make sure that I didn't. Yeah. I think I moved it over to the other drive. Sorry about that. My bad. Actually, that's uploaded already on YouTube. If you want to look at it, basically what I did was show you the difference between having roll stabilization, which is what they call it in the older version, on and off. So on basically shows a perfectly stable horizon, and off, of course, shows you what we would expect, which is the tilt of the horizon. But in this case, it is just really, really not as good. Okay, so the ANAFI exceeds greatly the effect that you normally would get. So I can show it to you directly off of the editor itself. But I'm going to go ahead and mute my narration. We'll go ahead. This is right out of Premiere right here. I hope this plays. Okay, here we go. So this is with the roll stabilization on. So I lower the gimbal, and now I'm going to swing the bird left. Just move it laterally left, and then move it laterally to the right. Now when I ended each one of those moves, I just let go of the right stick. And you see there's no jiggle, there's no bump, there's no nothing. It just stops, and you see a very stable horizon. Here's the horizon line right here. Nothing is happening, right? I just scattered some leaves there. You saw that. Okay, now I'm going to just fly around a little bit. And again, this is with roll stabilization on. Here I am. I'm just going to very jerky flying motions here because I really want to, cause something bad to happen here as far as the stabilization that is built into this system. This is all electronically done. There is no gimbal at all. It's all done electronically with a fisheye camera lens. If this doesn't impress you, I don't know what will. Again, no gimbal, folks. This is all electronically done. Fisheye 180-degree range fisheye lens on this. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and switch over to stabilization turned off. Uh-oh, did you see that already? You see that? Everything, every slight little movement I make. Watch. Stop, boing. Go to the right. Look at that. Look at that horizon. And boing. You see that? So that's with stabilization turned off. A lot of the toy drones that you buy would have that effect because they just don't have that ability to electronically stabilize the video. And again, I have the luxury of a 180-degree view all the way around. I mean, it's like a giant sphere. Watch this. Now, when you fly around, you do get that slight effect of the fluidity type look. So I think in order to apply that with a Bebop 2, you would have to, just stick to normal flying modes like I did earlier with the ANAFI. See what happened when I stopped? You had that little bump. There you go. See that? Go sideways, it tilts, stop, it bounces, go the other direction, boom, tilt again. So I think when you do lateral movements like that is when you will see this type of effect. Now, will the ANAFI do that as well? I am not sure. I need to go out and actually try that. So maybe tomorrow will be a good time to try that. See that? All of that moving. As you come to a stop, the drone will, of course, react to, the physical forces. And the stabilization is turned off, so you don't actually see it being corrected for you. Boom, look at that tilt. Yeah. And, some people might like that, but, for cinematic type video, that's not really something we want, right? Alrighty. Let's save that. We'll go back to me. So again, this is what I've been doing for the last couple of days. Been messing around with that and exploring all the different aspects of these types of modes. And for those of you who are just dying to bail out right now, please realize that drones can be used for still photography. You have access to shooting points and viewpoints that you would never be able to access normally. Okay. Sure, you can climb on top of a mountain, you can climb on top of a building and shoot from those points of view. But if you can just simply press a button, take off, aim that gimbal down, adjust the yaw, adjust your positioning, and just pressing that photo button and snapping a raw image, 21 megapixel raw image, and get this. This is just my street. This is as simple as that. I mean, there is no other way to do this. I was about maybe 40 feet up in the air. There's no way that I'm going to do that any other way. And that's why I'm trying to marry together both aspects. I mean, all of you use DSLRs or other types of cameras. And again, this is also another type of camera. Okay. The ultimate result is to get those images on paper, which is what? Print. This is what we do. So regardless of how I achieved that, whether it was from a drone, or me climbing on a crane, and being sent up 50 feet up in the air and grasp that image that way. Either way, still aerial. But I'd rather do it from something that I am controlling from the ground. And God knows how much a crane would cost to have it come over and lift me. Okay. What about if you need to inspect your roof? Would you rather climb up and endanger your life, or just bring one of these birds up and have a really close and friendly view with your roof's condition? I think that would be a lot easier than possibly falling off of a ladder. So anyway, let's continue on here, and then we'll say goodnight. It's almost, it's 3 hours already. So we'll do the last few, and then we'll play some music and get us going. Let me make sure that I got my music queued up here so I don't have any kind of awkward moments here. All right, so we have it here. And let's see what else we got here. Bill Sturck says, would it be best to print 100 to print hundreds of pictures from a lab or on my Pro 10? Well, it just depends. I mean, monetarily, probably cheaper to print them off of a lab. If you're just printing like 4x6s, yeah, just send them to your local drugstore. But if you love, getting that instant gratification, like I always say, and you love watching prints, if you love to watch paint dry, watching prints, hundreds of them from your Pro 100 is fun. There's no way to describe it, right? Yeah, it is one of the best pastimes I've ever come across, other than flying drones. So, and hanging out with my grandson. Yeah. So, yeah. Monetarily, yeah, send them to a local place. Have them done at the drugstore. If they're just, 4x6s or something like that. But if you're going to be making larger prints than, Pro 100, Pro 10, Pro 1, Pro 1000, just simply having them emerge in front of your eyes, just there's nothing like it. So, okay, Derek Otway. Depends on lots of things, Bill. Cost is one of them. For me, printing on my own is about controlling who has access to my raw high definition files. Now, if you're talking about individual images, something that you really value and you have spent a lot of time editing and getting to just look just right, and then you have to email that file to your lab in New York and then have them send it back to you, and this takes several days. There's nothing instant about it. You see what I mean? And so what if that file print comes back to you, you are all giddy, open up that package, it's beautifully packed, and it doesn't look like you expected it to look. Well, your only resort is to go back to them and say, hey, they may have a policy that they will reprint anything for you. Yeah, then you have to deal again with another 2 or 3 days wait. You can go to Costco. They have large format printers there as well, and have them print one for you. And if you don't like it, they can adjust it right there for you. And so, but still, you got to drive to Costco. You got to buy a membership. I do it at home. It's just so much better and so much easier for me to just come back to my monitor, open up that same image, open it in QImage, whatever, Lightroom, Photoshop, and make a little bit of an adjustment. Maybe it's just something that not necessarily a mismatch from what I see on my monitor, but just something that I realize, hey, I should have made this, I should have dodged or burned in this area a little bit more. Easy. Go back, reopen it, perform the dodge or burn in adjustment, whatever you want to do. Save as another file, so it'll be like edit number 7. And in Lightroom, it remembers all of those edits that you performed. You can go back to your history and access any one of those multiple editing steps you perform. That's awesome. That's really awesome. You can go back and just edit to your heart's content. Oh, you don't like what you did? Just go back to a previous edit. Nothing to undo. It's all saved. Every single mouse click is saved for you. So whatever you did that you may not like, you can always go back. So again, easy. You know how hard that would be to do if you were sending a file to New York, okay, or LA or whatever, or even going to your local Costco. That would be another drive or whatever. Anyway, yeah, printing at home is just the best since sliced bread anyway, but it just requires, all of that commitment from you. Okay, Bill answered Derek and says, I was going to print one copy for a book that people can pick out a picture and then have a lab do the inventory of each picture for $2.99 for an 8x10. And then I would sell that for $10. Yeah, so that's one of the things you can do. Now, can you print an 8x10 for $2.99? Sure you can. Of course. No problem. Buy the paper you're going to stick to, buy a large bulk. That'll be much cheaper per sheet, maybe a quarter. And then ink, that'll take about, an ml and a half total ink for an 8x10. That's another $1. So, you're going to sell for $10 each. I think that's pretty reasonable to do it at home. Yeah. Levi came back. Apparel. He said, very cool. You're still here. George VZ says, thanks for all the time, Jose. Bill Sturck says, thank you. Spike597 says, I'm late, but I'm finally got here. Well, we're about to check out, my friend. Sorry about that. We have been our customary just over 3 hours. Bill Sturck says, I totally understand. I think I will print them at home. Thank you very much for all your help. Well, great. That is all we have to do. This is what the achievement of this little Saturday night get together is all about, to help out people. Like I said, I did not get to the subjects that I meant to do. But again, you guys just came through like champs and just asked all kinds of wonderful questions, which is what really made this a successful show tonight. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and play some music. All right. By the way, I get these music pieces from YouTube. It's a free library that they have. YouTube is revamping their studio version so that when you access all of these functions, it's a little harder to achieve, to get to. They're revamping this. Is going to be the regular classic studio is going to go away by the end of the year. So what I've been doing is downloading every single one of these free files so that I can have access to them for all my videos. They come in 2 flavors. No attribution required. That means you don't have to give anyone credit. And then attribution required, which means you have to copy and paste information and then include that on your video description. So any of you out there have a video channel and you want to use free music that will never ever be struck as a copyright claim against you, go to the YouTube music library. All right. Thank you once again. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And until the next time, as always, folks, happy printing and bye-bye.